I don't hear audio from the feedback.
Yeah,
Alright.
I didn't hear any. I didn't hear anything. If our
really?
viewers right now could let us know if you also haven't heard anything. I don't know if it was just limited to us not being able to hear it, but
Well,
our
I
glorious
apologize.
entrance music might have not worked.
Well, we tried.
Liza, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Liza looks pretty self-satisfied with her Oscar picks because
Oh, is she-
I think she.
Were you
from the
100%
sound of
this
it, I
year?
think
So
you nailed them.
So this year is the closest I've ever come before. Usually I'm like, Chris said that like I'm pretty much like a Charles Barkley where
Yeah.
I pick things and like they decide to go the complete other way. You know what though? Those last two, Best Actor, Best Actress, I didn't pick those.
What was it? Anthony
I'm fine
Hopkins
with
and was
them.
it Francis
I'm fine with
McDormand
them.
one?
Yeah, those who I mean, I wanted Riz Ahmed to win Best Actor, and he didn't get it. And I actually did want Frances McDormand to win Best Actress, but I thought it was going to go to Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. And then not all my picks are the ones that I actually wanted. So they were my predictions though. I don't know if you guys watched the part where they announced Best Documentary and they gave it to My Octopus Teacher.
You didn't call that
Oh,
one?
really?
I called that one because
Oh, okay.
that's been throughout award season, they've just been scooping up all the awards along the way.
Yeah.
But I don't know if anyone's actually watched it.
That's not about Polly Octopus, the World Cup predicting octopus, is it?
It's a real,
God.
I don't know. It's
No,
bad.
it's
not. Okay.
I tried watching it with the kids because everyone said it's definitely going to be like a shoe-in for Best Documentary. And I don't like it. It's objectively bad.
Did you watch Collective? The one about it was about I think where was it, Croatia, and there was this fire in a nightclub, and then a lot of people got burned, right? And then they went to the hospital and they died from infections they got in the hospital, and it came out that the supplier of the disinfectants.
Who was I talking
For-
about this with? Was it Croatia? I
Jess.
thought it was
Hey, Jess.
Romania.
Maybe it was Romania. Sorry, Croatia. Maybe
Let's
it
not
was Romania.
slander the good people of Croatia.
I thought it was Bosnia, how do you pronounce that?
Herzegovina.
Slovenia.
Yeah,
No,
I thought it was that one.
I'll look it up, but no, I don't think it was Bosnia. I think it was.
Yeah, it was
either
Romania.
Croatia or Romania.
Adam, how dare you?
I'm sorry,
What did
Croatians.
Croatia ever do to you?
Our Croat listeners will be
actually-
The only
I
Croatian I know
actually
is Luka
wanted-
Modric, right? The soccer player. He's Croatian.
Ivan Rakitic.
Yeah. But anyway, that was good. Collective was really good in terms of
I actually
documentaries.
really wanted Crip Camp to win Best Documentary. I know that it's a Obama,
Yeah.
but it was good.
That one was really good. I liked it way better than Octopus Teacher. That one was a little creepy to me.
Boring.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the
Like, what was the
octopus
one
didn't
that-
get eaten.
Well, he died natural causes,
Yeah.
so
Well,
Because they don't live a long time, so it's yeah, they're all talking
as
about
well,
how
right?
octopuses
Might as well
are gonna.
I heard that octopus
Yeah, I mean, they're
kinda
saying, like,
closed off
octopuses
that
are smart
relationship
enough.
before it was over anyway. I think the octopus called it off, from what I understand.
Octopus was like boundaries. No,
Bound-
this isn't.
I got
no.
family
Boundary.
stuff I got to take care of. You need to back off.
Yeah.
but
I'm
was
pretty happy
octopus?
that this is the lowest rated Oscars ever. I think it was under 10 million people watched, which makes me very happy because I want the
Yep,
ratings
just
to
to
keep
die.
going down.
That's on trend with every other award
I
show
want
so
the
far, right?
I want the
Yes.
ratings to go down so that the people who are obsessed with the Oscars like me are the only people left that watch them.
yeah. So
Actually care.
Liza wants the Oscars to become the Tonys, like a very
Okay.
insidery, almost cult-like show
Yes.
that you have to be a
That's
true
what I want.
fan of movies to.
Yeah.
Well,
I would love
movies
it if
are
me and,
almost
10 people
there.
watched it.
I mean, movies are almost to the level of Broadway, which doesn't exist anymore. So movies barely exist. I think it's almost like you've got to be a movie nerd to actually watch movies now.
That's so sad.
That's what I want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, every
what you're gonna get.
That would make
every
me
whole
happy.
niche has to have their whole nerd out thing, right? Movies got too mainstream, so Eliza wants to be the nerd of movies. You got to have that. Everyone needs that.
It's true.
Yeah.
What's the likelihood of a TikTok award show in the future?
Oh God, that
100%.
almost
Is that where we're
100%,
going?
100%, 100%.
There's a
Yeah.
there's a
First award should
restaurant.
break 1 billion views.
Okay.
There's a restaurant near me that on its like chalkboard outside on the sidewalk says something like, if you show up there on like a brunch and then your TikTok video gets the most likes in the year, you get like a X number of dollars, I guess, gift certificate to the restaurant.
What is it,
And
like $35?
I think it's sizable. I
Wow.
think it was like $2,000.
Pretty good.
So I don't know if it's
Yeah.
like just for the restaurant. Maybe they just give it to you in cash, but that must be the most insufferable meal you could go to in a restaurant. Just everybody doing their TikTok-y things. Oh my god.
Well, Eliza, you might feel the pain. Like Instagram influencers. Like every time there's some like Instagram influencer kind of event, like every time you see backstage footage of it, it's insane. It's all these women just like holding their cameras up, taking selfies at the event, not really and you see their facial expression, they're always like frozen in a selfie ready like facial like
just like
like
that.
I'm having so much. So you literally cannot take a bad picture of them at the yeah.
I want someone to take a
It's so
picture of
crazy,
everyone
so
else
imagine
taking
it's just
pictures
more
of
of that.
themselves, right? So you see
Yeah.
like just a row of people taking selfies. And
No,
they're not
Adam.
even
Yeah,
looking
and they're
at their
all
food,
they all
right?
have the same expression. So no matter who's taking the picture from what angle, they'll get the same shot of you. It's
There-
really creepy to watch.
There was a footage from Coachella, I believe, where this
Oh
guy
my
just
God.
like going through this like I think Coachella has like this centerpiece usually.
They
Has
must.
anyone been
They
here?
always have.
Yeah.
I've never been to Coachella.
So this
Yeah.
guy or woman was filming everybody there, and everyone's just taking
Yeah.
selfies and stuff like that. And it was supposed to
Yeah.
be, aren't you here to enjoy concerts? You
a lot of them are
people?
wearing like the identical, because like Coachella like style is like a thing now, right? You know,
It's
just, like,
Vanessa
particular style.
Hudgens, yeah. She's
Yeah,
like the
exactly.
queen of Coachella style. That whole boat.
Is that look still hot? I feel like that's very mid to 2010s. Like the whole
see,
headdress thing, right? That whole.
I mean, has fashion advanced in the past year when like everyone just wears sweatpants and like shorts and like
There was
T-shirts.
cottage core like maybe a year ago, and then that went away. So I don't know.
That sounds
No, I
very
think that doubled
Toronto.
down.
What is cottagecore?
Yeah.
You know, you wear stuff that's very kind of like outdoorsy, a lot of flannel.
just
and-
just watch a Taylor Swift music video.
Only
and you'll
Canadians
know.
say cottage, right?
no, I think
I don't think so.
cottagecore is like an actual thing.
Oh, really?
It's like
I
a-
thought it
yeah.
was like a
whole-
Toronto thing to like, oh, we're at the cottage this weekend.
Yeah, we do.
Whereas
but I
Americans
mean,
would say
like,
cabin. Cabin
cottage-
core.
It's not cabin core. It's cottage.
Cottage
Cottage
core
core,
aesthetic.
okay.
What exactly is cottage core, and how did it get so popular?
Taylor Swift videos.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, she's the queen of cottage core, or she tried to
I would,
co-opt it.
yeah.
Cottage core.
Okay, so
Well, Google
no,
it,
I guess.
Google it.
Yeah, no,
See,
I,
do
I'm
like a
gonna share it
Google
right
image
now. I'm
search.
gonna share it.
Cindy Lisa salmon colored. Isn't salmon colored more prep, like Nantucket Reds, that kind of thing?
I thought it was more pinky peach.
I thought it was a lot of like white, like gossamer
Yeah, so this
white
is like
and
very
string
like
lights.
whites.
I can see the appeal.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is more.
It's also-
This is a
It's
cottage, right?
Jane
I mean,
Austen
this is-
level cottage.
Yeah, I mean this is very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
well,
also been called racist because it's too white.
What
Well,
it?
I mean,
Math is
it's almost
racist
like
now,
is it
it's
sort
not
of is
racist.
it
Yeah.
is it adjacent to like plantation sort of stuff?
No, it's not.
I don't
It's not
think
the
so.
Southern
I don't
Belle
think so,
look.
right?
It's not the Southern Belle
Yeah.
look. It's totally imagined. Like nobody actually dressed like this in real ever in history.
No.
oh, this is how you dress if your family is like only has daughters, and then you're trying to like wrestle over like who inherits the cottage.
Yeah. But if you ever look at the dresses those people wore back then, it was not very flattering. You know, if you ever seen like a properly costumed Jane Austen movie, they got those dresses where the waistline's like right below,
What
like all the way
period
up
is that?
here
The
and thing.
Jane Austen period.
Okay.
The Regency period, they call it.
Regency.
Regency.
Yeah. No, it got that was
Yeah.
salacious. Like in England and in France, like those dresses got really low cut and really super see-through. I don't know how I fell into
Did
this.
they?
Like it's been a long. Yeah, they did. No, you wouldn't guess, but they are extremely risque gowns. Like they would be cut like there was a whole thing in France where you should be able to see the tops of the nipples for the women, and these
Milady,
gowns were
that
often
is a
like
bodice. not a dress.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and and the whole thing, like the most expensive fabric was actually made in India, and it was super see-through. Like we actually lost this technology, but so the whole thing was super expensive, and it was a whole like
Huh.
gesture of wealth to be able to afford this like giant gown that's basically made out of air and that's completely see-through.
Yeah, I
So-
remember. I think
The
it was like.
trivia that no one asked for.
I think it was
that's why
like
they come
third.
to our streams, right?
Don't Google it.
Yeah,
This
there
is a
you go.
PG stream. We're gonna get kicked off.
Yeah, we're
YouTube.
not sharing that.
Sometime I
Sorry,
think in
guys.
third grade, you know how you sometimes you just have movie days because the teacher doesn't really want to teach or something. I think we could volunteer movies to bring, and I wanted everyone to watch Amadeus because like, even
I
back
love
then,
that movie.
even back
Great
then, it was like
movie.
my favorite
Yeah.
movie.
There's like some nude
Yeah.
scenes though. Like,
No, that's the
she's-
thing. No, that's the
she
thing.
takes her top off.
Well, no,
I
no,
see- I
that's
see
only
what
in
you
the
did
director's
there.
cut. That's only in the director's cut. In the theatrical cut, the far superior cut, there is no
There's
top
no nudity.
but there's a lot of cleavage.
there's-
Constanza,
Yeah.
the dress she wears, and all the kids were like, "Oh, look at the boobies," and I was like, "No, like, pay attention to the
Pay
movie."
attention.
But, yeah, all the kids, all they cared about was the boobies. Yeah,
Well,
You were into
yeah,
Amadeus in third grade. I'm impressed.
yeah.
it's a good movie.
Yeah, I remember
very
that.
good movie.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm more of
Yeah.
an immortal beloved person. We've talked about this.
Yeah, I don't like that movie that much.
It just
Although it's got some
didn't have-
beautiful
it just
scenes,
didn't-
but
Yeah, I just need that campy laugh, that immortal laugh.
Immortal Beloved it was basically Citizen Kane but Beethoven.
Yeah,
I like
it was
that.
too serious.
Yeah, that's a good premise to me. I'm
No,
fine
no,
with
it's
it.
got some beautiful scenes, and Gary Oldman's great, but
Justice for Salieri.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
that's great.
He's the real
It
hero,
was an
right.
right?
apology
That's my
note.
guy.
Yeah, Amadeus
Yeah.
is like a giant apology to Salieri.
no, it
Okay.
impugns Salieri.
Yeah.
Salieri was the
Salieri
man.
is not mediocre, okay?
Yeah.
No, not only was he
I know,
quite
what do you think is
talented.
bad though.
No, not only
Well,
was Salieri
compared to
very
Mozart,
talented,
right?
he
You're
also
comparing him to Mozart. So
Right,
like,
exactly.
He was
if
the
you- if you're being
narrator of the
compared
whole
to
film,
Mozart,
wasn't he?
You can't
Yeah.
be mediocre to be
So the
in
whole-
the same conversation.
The whole movie
as
is
like,
Salieri's invention. It's his,
Yes,
it's
that's
his
true.
recollection of the
Exactly.
entire of the entire story.
well, yeah, but
Yeah.
the play and the
Which
movie
is
also
why Mozart's so
totally.
Yeah.
But the play and the movie also totally impugned
And who won
Salieri.
Best Actor? Was it the guy that played Mozart or the guy that played Salieri?
No, it was F. Murray Abraham who played
Who played
Salieri.
Salieri? Yeah.
No, apparently Salieri not only
you go.
mentored Mozart, he also
did, yeah.
mentored Beethoven and somebody else, like very.
He's I mean,
And his music is good. Like there's
It
actually
is.
recordings of a lot of his recordings. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were friends in real life.
Salieri's good.
No.
So who made up this rivalry? Is this like a fake rivalry, like the LeBron Kobe thing,
No,
where it's like not
yeah, no,
real
it was,
manufactured rivalry?
I think it was Alexander Pushkin, if I recall correctly, who made up a poem like way back in like the 18th century, fabricating this rivalry, and then this guy named Peter Schaefer wrote a play that was a big hit, which then became the movie made by Milos Forman. But yeah, it's totally it's a great story, but it's totally made up. And I've always wondered, if you're Salieri, would you be happy? Because at least you're famous. You're incredibly famous.
True.
You're famous. You got a best.
But for the
picture,
wrong
best
reasons, but for the
actor.
wrong
For a
reasons.
movie, not for your actual music. So
I mean,
Like, it
you're
was
being compared though to Mozart, so there's that.
Yeah.
I think there's if I recall correct, this is a long time ago, but it was kind of an argument like, do you trade commercial viability for artistic freedom? Right. Kind of a relevant question now. So this would be like comparing, I don't know, like Stephen
Personal
King.
preference, or as far as legacy goes.
As far as legacy and a little bit of both, right? Like, which one do you want? Like, both of these artists had the chance at various points in their careers to trade one for the other. Do you take, like, Salieri was the court musician, like, appointed by the
Right.
emperor, super rich, super popular, but he wrote for that audience, which is going to be a lot more conservative than crazy Mozart, who's kind of, always broke, right? So,
Who's-
which one do
who's
you
the
want?
household
Which one do you
name?
want? Yeah, and who's the winner in that? Like Mozart died broke, Salieri died rich, but he was forgotten. Mozart died broke, but he's
No, that's a great
remembered
question.
now.
No, that's a great
did the
question.
concept
Um,
of selling out even exist back then? I feel like that's a modern.
oh, I'm sure it did. It's always
Well,
existed.
I mean, I guess
think
you would
so.
Salieri would be the sellout then, right? Because he took that
Yeah.
core position and he sort of he compromised his art for his audience, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying maybe they didn't care. Maybe they cared about putting food on the table and being fucking ballin' back then. ahead of being an artiste or whatever, you know.
See, I don't know. I think the concept of selling out only exists in an era of relative affluence. Like if you're not
Right.
dying of hunger.
So like post 1940s or 50s.
Yeah, I don't think back that. Like, I think if you have the chance to get a court commission by the Emperor of freaking Austria,
would take it.
You just take it.
I mean,
Yeah,
even
you just take it.
Yeah, I mean, even the well-known like painters, right? Like the old master painters, they all took commissions,
All
right?
of them were, yeah.
They didn't just
Patronage
paint
by
because like anything they wanted, right? They had to do what like a rich person
The
would be like,
Medici
paint this
family or,
thing,
like,
and you'd be like, all right,
some
cool,
other-
I'll paint that thing, and you give me money or you allow me to like
Yeah.
do whatever, right? So like,
Yeah.
I don't think they would have considered that selling out. They're like, well, you know, who has the money to pay me to paint? You know, like 5 people in the world, right?
No, I think there's always been a concept of selling out or not. Because if you were taking that commission, you also had to, you know, for example, paint what the church wanted. Maybe you were a devil worshiper or you thought the church was wrong. And it's like, would you rather be like a Vincent van Gogh or one of those salon painters who would paint those like 12 feet by 12 feet, you know, mythical ancient Greek scenes, and you know the salon would love you and you would be the celebrity of the day? But we don't remember any of those artists. We remember Van Gogh, but Van Gogh also had a miserable life. He thought he was a failure, etc. So it's a really interesting question. It's like,
He kind of achieved fame before he died, though, unlike a lot of these artists, right? Who didn't achieve fame till
did
way
he?
after.
I don't know. I thought he died like.
I think it was up and down. Like if I think at various points he was more famous, and then he would do something stupid to turn people off. So he was
So
a
he
crazy
cut off his
spender.
ear. That didn't like endear him.
He got
endear him to
canceled.
people?
You're talking about Van Gogh?
Oh, sorry. I was
Okay,
thinking
I don't
about-
know.
I think it was somebody else.
No,
No,
I'm just sort of joking.
no, Van Gogh definitely died unknown for the most part, I
Okay.
believe. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. So I don't know.
yeah.
I don't
So
know.
I mean,
Speaking of selling out, let's pivot right back to the Oscars. It's kind of
yeah,
crazy.
So
The Oscars it was at Union
The
Station.
Oscars.
Yeah, which is like 10 minutes from my place. It was kind of weird to be watching it because that's just not a
Be right
very
back.
classy venue.
I
was
like
kinda
the
weird to
format,
see people
though.
in ball
I
gowns.
actually did.
Yeah, it was-
for all my venting and like bitching on Twitter. I actually did prefer this format to other years. I like it. It's a little more laid back. There's less people.
It's a little more casual, I think.
It's a little more casual. Not all the speeches were as good as the others. Like there were some really boring speeches, but I did appreciate that they just let the artists talk. Like if you think about it, like this is your life's work, and you're fucking winning an Oscar. You know, if that means something to you, then like I would feel so bad, or if you were like that person on stage and you want to thank people, you want to thank your parents, you want to talk about like your mentor, and they're like turning the music on you so that we can play like the next Toyota ad, you know?
right.
And then they ask you what
So
Brad
like
Pitt
I do
smells like.
appreciate that they just let the accepting speeches go as long as they want to, and they
That-
just talk and talk and talk. You know, I stick with that. That's fine with me.
Well,
There are some people that I really did enjoy listening to, like when John Batiste and Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross won their Oscar for Best Score. I really liked John Batiste's speech. Like that was very casual, and like if this was any other normal year, they would have turned the music on and like pulled him off the stage, and they wouldn't have let him finish talking. And if I won an Oscar, I would stay up there for as long as I can and just like thank everyone that I
literally get the hook right until they get the hook right.
Yeah.
But
I'd be like,
I'm
no,
interested.
we're not cutting to the next Honda commercial, so you can,
Right.
I'm
I'm interested in the pillow fort that your son is making in the background.
Is that what's going on?
That in the screen.
Yeah, it's
I think
very,
so.
and he has like a message up there. I don't know. But
It says
so-
the dog says meow. I don't know what that means.
well, I mean, our whole stream is going to be about what that means now. The dog
Yeah.
says no.
Is
But,
that like a reference to something that I don't know about? Is that like a
Not to
TikTok?
my knowledge.
I don't
He
think
has
so.
it propped up there like some kind of like hostage message.
Yeah, it's definitely. He definitely wants it to be in the live stream.
That's- yeah,
I
he
don't
set
know,
it up
viewers,
there,
if This
yeah.
is a reference to something that I don't know about because I can't keep up with
Kids these
youth
days.
culture.
I don't know if that's a smooth transition, but I think, I don't know, we're talking about sort of selling out what art is, right? And I think Chris wanted to talk about this particular
Oh yeah, this
tweet that we've been discussing off and on, but I'll read it here.
No, but that's not the one I'm interested in. Go
Oh, not
down a
this
little bit. Yeah, go down a little bit.
Okay, so one of
It's like the
other
third
ones.
tweet in that tweet storm.
Oh yeah, it's this.
Yeah,
this
that one
right?
with the Wolf of Wall Street gif. Yeah.
Good, so we don't have to have the horrible Sonic image.
Can you
up
give
there.
context for the other tweets first, Chris, before in case people didn't read it really quickly?
Yeah, so there's this. So the guy was angry because. So when the first Sonic trailer dropped, Sonic was hideous and everybody was aghast. So then the studio went back and that's like the
this.
comparison. So the studio went back and fixed it, and you would think that that's a good thing, but there are some people who think this is like tyranny of the mob, especially because I think they think Sonic fans are all these kind of 4chan dwelling bitter loser guys who just played too much Sega back in the day.
Did it ever occur to these people that Sonic is for kids?
Right, and Sonic is not a human,
It's because he is
right?
a child.
I mean,
And so
look
there-
at what he
What
looks
is
like. He
this?
looks like a human. He looks like a human man.
Right.
Yeah.
So like to make it more appealing to children, they made it look more manga-like.
Yeah.
Cartoonic.
So they're
Well,
trying
how
to.
does this tweet fit in with any of the others? This
What,
is almost
which-
a contradiction in terms. Like, how does this fit in? I'm not sure how this.
You mean the
tweet
one we're looking
fits
at
in.
right now?
Yeah.
He's contradicting himself, is what she's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his whole point is that the studio should have just said "fuck you" to the fans and kept ugly Sonic to quote teach those people a lesson.
Who are those people, though?
Like
Teach
the-
people a lesson.
Obviously, he doesn't. He wouldn't be saying this if he thought that it was kids watching it, right?
No. I think in his view, it's the probably like 20 or 30 something fanboys, the same
People that didn't like the Last Jedi.
People
Yes,
who didn't like the
exactly.
Last Jedi, people who complain about cancel culture and wokeness. So he's saying that
Everyone in this podcast.
he's saying the studio should have said fuck you to those people and been this is his definition of subversive. But then he also says that you can't be problematic or insensitive. So the reason that
No.
just jumped out at me is okay. So how do you be controversial without being insensitive?
To somebody.
Until you, by definition, you're being insensitive to somebody. But then we don't. What he means by insensitive is essentially like the things that piss off him and his crowd. It should be off limits, but everybody else should be just doesn't matter what they feel. So I think this is endemic
It
of.
should be forced on them.
Yeah, I think this is
Anyone that
endemic of
disagrees.
why stuff is not interesting or exciting because things are only really exciting and interesting if they ruffle people's feathers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But to them, by
extent,
definition, the only things that can be controversial is if it picks on kind of like the same people over and over again. That
I don't know if that's totally true, though. I mean, like, I think a lot of stuff that is really maybe revolutionary just goes unnoticed. I don't know if it's necessarily going to piss people off. I think it might just be ignored. I mean, was Van
Possibly.
Gogh, was he pissing people off? I don't think so. I think he was just probably ignored. And
it's always
wasn't-
funny to think
Cool.
of. I think it's always funny to think of how people were so pissed off that the Impressionists left visible brush strokes, and they were like, "Oh my God, how can you do that?" Yeah. Certainly, revolutionary people can be totally ignored, but I think he is talking about the people who do get noticed and piss off the wrong people.
This whole thing
Piss
is
off him.
just
Yeah.
like insane
Yeah.
to me, and I said this on our Unverified podcast. But the thing is that he chose an example where he's just wrong, right? Where he's just completely incorrect because the Sonic that they ended up with was an improvement over the original one. So he completely fails to make his point. That and also like I don't know if it's clear to him. Like it's weird that he's talking to this specific group of he thinks Sonic fanboys when really it is a movie for kids. Right, and really the people who were upset about the original thing wasn't just like angry Sonic fanboys, but the entire internet was like, "This is fucking disgusting," So it's just I think a terrible example. I also think he's kind of irrelevant. He's not like a huge figure. He has a Star Wars pod. Like, I don't know. The whole thing doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like it's a little bit overblown.
Yeah, Sonic is the oddest hill to die on.
Yeah, I know. Like the Sonic.
Yeah.
Hey, remember the big outrage over Pumbaa in the live-action Lion King?
Wait, I'm not aware of this. What happened?
What?
Pull up.
All right,
Adam,
I'll
pull
search
up
for
a-
it.
Yeah, pull up a picture of the live-action Pumbaa, the warthog.
Oh yeah, okay. So I'll look
Remember
it up.
that?
Just keep yeah.
I've never heard of this, Eliza. Can you explain what the problem with Pumbaa was?
Okay.
Live action.
Was he too
Pumbaa.
scary looking?
Yes.
Oh.
So you remember what
Oh,
Pumbaa
is he
looked like in
too-
the cartoon? Yeah, it basically, like, people don't know what a warthog looks like because
Yeah,
they
there's a
use-
reason they're called warthogs.
Oh, he's too scary.
Well, he looks like a
And the
real.
teeth.
He looks like an actual warthog.
Yeah, wasn't it the point
Right.
of the new Lion King to like kind of do?
Well,
Real-
yeah, it's
real-looking-ish,
live action.
but,
It's
like,
it's
you know.
actual. Yeah.
I don't. Do you
Oh,
guys
yeah, so-
remember? Maybe most of you guys are too young or something. But back in the when the original Lion King got released, there were a lot of like people really mad that it was too graphic for kids.
Too graphic.
Oh, like when the dad dies.
Yeah,
Was
when
it
the dad
blood?
dies, like no,
He just
no.
fell to. You
Oh,
don't even
do
see
you-
him getting trampled. do you?
You kind of do. You see him fall. You see him like clearly messed up, and then you see him
There it
die,
is,
You know
and
right?
it's
what,
very
though?
traumatizing.
Jeremy Irons as Scar was such a good actor for voice, and then
Oh
like,
God, yeah.
his character is so gay, you know. That
Yeah.
I think audiences back then were just a little bit too. It was like ahead of its time, you know.
You know there's some creepy fan art sexualizing Scar.
Oh,
Shipping Scar and
this is like a
and,
flashback. Do you guys remember that whole like controversy?
I actually can't believe that they use this.
That is a warthog. That's what they look like.
Yeah.
That's a warthog.
Where's it? Find a picture of the Pumbaa from the cartoon.
Yeah. Versus.
I mean, the most
Pumbaa from
shocking thing to
cartoon,
me
right?
is that
Can we?
Pumbaa's
Is
spelled
there
with.
like a side by side that exists?
Yeah, I think there was one. Let me but I was trying to find one that was like big enough.
I thought it was spelled with
There
one
it
A,
is.
not two A's. Pumbaa.
It is 2 A's.
I did
Here
not
it
know
is.
that.
Yeah.
There's a side by side, the top one.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to it. Give me a sec.
Wait, so what was the overall
Damn.
point of the raising this tweet, Chris? What was the thing about this that stuck out to you?
Well, it made me think of just Asian American stuff. And I mean, on the Unverified Accounts podcast, Filip and Eliza and I, we talk often about this, is that, you know, we're never really allowed to push boundaries. Or if we do, it's never actually doing it because we got to be nice ultimately. And I mean, Teen, you were talking about something like Minari, which is a good movie, but it's like a nice immigrant story. It's a nice immigrant story. And I felt the same way after watching it. I was like, this is very well made, but you know, like it just kind of reaffirms the American dream, and that's why people like it. And everybody cried over it, and well, except for Yoon Yo-jung, who, you know, congrats to her, she won that Oscar.
One best supporting actress.
Yeah,
much
good for her.
deserved, much deserved. Yes, yeah.
Chris,
So
did you ever see that panel that she was on? I think I told you about that way back. The
Yeah.
one that she was on with Sandra Oh.
right, but there
And-
doesn't exist any live video for it, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I asked you for
yeah.
it, but you
Just the
said
transcript.
yeah. I think it was referred
Yeah.
to in an article. Yeah.
An interview, yeah.
Yeah, it was an event that it was like a special screening for like Korean American Day or whatever. Not that I knew that it was Korean American Day. I was like, okay, awesome.
I didn't even know such
and
thing
then like why every day is Korean American Day, man? That's anyway, it was like her. It was all the cast members of Minari with and hosted by Sandra Oh. And then I got to a certain point, and then all of the Asian American actors were just melting down in tears. And then like the Korean actors are just sitting there like, okay, I have no idea what's wrong with you people, but I'm very happy for you. I don't know what's going on.
What's everyone crying for?
it was- Yeah, she's like, I don't
They
know.
felt
this is just like a
validated.
movie.
Have you ever heard of Lacan's like sort of stages of development? And it's
Yeah.
like the way I think of it is like there's this thing called the mirror stage, which is like where a baby or like a very young child starts to understand its own reflection in the mirror, and it's starting to understand that like it exists and that in the world it observes, it actually exists as a thing within the world. I think that's where like Asian Americans as a group are with respect to media rep is like the world is not the world. The world is also this sort of like media. You have the consciousness in terms of media. And we're just getting around to that mirror stage where we understand like, oh, okay, we exist, people see us, we actually have an effect on the world, it's a two-way thing. I think that's kind of where we are now, and we're kind of early on in the development stage, and I think that's like why people break down and start crying. You know, like.
But to Chris's point though, why is it that when we acknowledge that we exist, it always has to be over some like fucking sappy thing? You know, like there's always these stories about like immigrant toil and like challenges and stories about all this kind of.
Well,
emotion.
I mean, you're gonna go gentle, right? I'm not saying this is a complete theory or anything, but I'm just saying like, you're gonna start off with like, oh, this is where you came from. You were
Your
brought
roots.
here by angels, and we love you. And
It's a creation mythos, I think.
yes,
I think
it's a creation myth that especially you tell someone
where
new.
we're starting from. Yeah.
Later, we're
This
gonna
is the
start getting
story of
we
how we
found you
came
under
here.
a bridge, or
Yeah. Some mythological
Right,
story.
right.
my parents told me they found me in a trash can. That comes a little later, when your kid's a
A
little
lot of
older,
our stories are kind of myths, right? Like
Yeah.
if you've heard it from your mom and dad or something, or your parents, gradually over time that connection to the motherland is going to go away. All you have is that oral history, and there's actually no real way to verify that even.
Yeah, there is because you can go back. Right. You can
Well,
go
I mean,
back and you
I'm
can
saying
see-
like without those tools, you obviously can, but for the most part, most of us aren't. It's just we have our stories like that. Like we dunk on that egg monopoly chick a lot, right? This is like an internet deep cut. So if anyone's out
Oh,
there
yeah.
like, what the hell? So it was a
Pull
tweet
that
by
up,
somebody
yeah. Let's find
who's
that.
like a neuroscientist or something in the Bay Area, and she did this like an all-time just
neuroscientist?
chef's kiss,
Very,
something
very
like that.
ill-advised tweet.
Oh
that
my
just-
God.
Oh my god, but it's like an all-time just like mwah, just a
Yeah.
great tweet. She's talking about like back in China, my family had we owned all of the eggs in China. All of the eggs in China, mind you. And then when the communists took over, they took away our egg monopoly, and then we came our way here. Like you probably didn't own all of the eggs in China if you think about it, lady. That's a lot of chickens. It's a lot of eggs.
Adam? Can you put Pogo's comment about the Virginia Tech dude up?
Yeah.
See, I think that's a good point, and I think that's a real sort of artistic cap, because that would be a movie like Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Haven't
Any
I said
movie.
this
This is
before,
why-
though,
this
where
is why
I was
Better
like,
Luck-
someone should just make a movie out of Andy No and make him sympathetic and
Yeah.
then see what happens.
Why not?
I mean, this is why I
not?
think Better Luck Tomorrow got memory hold. I really do. Like
Wait, what do you mean
everyone,
memory
like,
hold?
We don't talk about it in the allegedly long canon of Asian American representation. We really don't. You look at like mainstream articles. I noticed this around Crazy Rich Asians, and this trend has continued through Parasite and Minari and all of these other. Better Luck Tomorrow just somehow falls out of this canon.
you were
Adam,
telling
Well,
can you
Enjoy
play
Lucky.
videos on? Can you replay a video on this? Or
Well,
I
LA
can.
LA Times a couple of years ago, I think, released a list of like 25 greatest Asian American films. It was number one, but I agree with you, Jess, in that nobody has tried to follow up on it. It came out in the early 2000s, and nobody has followed up on it. And what Pogo said, I guarantee you, any movie made about Chosun will be like 10 times more interesting than anything that's been made.
for sure.
But
Yeah.
it's gonna.
I think it
as I
would.
said,
No, I think it would be watched. Actually, Adam, can you
Do you want me to
that
play it?
YouTube? Yeah.
Okay.
Jess, what is the
I think that-
likelihood? Do you want to bet on whether or not
So
Better
sorry,
Luck
go ahead.
Tomorrow will show up in Jeff Yang's new book about Asian American media?
Oh, it'll
history?
show up.
it'll
Think
show
it'll
up.
show up?
It's
Yeah.
it
It's
can't
big
be
enough.
ignored. The question is who's followed in his footsteps, and the answer is nobody.
Yeah.
Not even
I
Justin
think it
Lin.
shows up
Nobody.
because Justin Lin became such a success.
Yeah, but that's
Okay,
wait,
because
so
of the
before you
work he
play
did
it-
after.
So before you play this,
What is this?
this was when Better Luck Tomorrow debuted at Sundance.
Oh, is this a
Yeah.
Roger Ebert thing? Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so like this guy, I guess he was in the audience or he might have been a critic or something, stood up and basically laid out what I think is the sort of unspoken. He said what the unspoken sort of limit is as to what storytelling can be. Play it. I think this is like the shortened version.
Oh, and please let me know if you can hear it, because I think
They couldn't
I
hear
shared it-
they couldn't hear the theme music.
Yeah, that's because I shared it from like my video player. When I share the
I'll let
we'll
you
find-
know.
tabs,
we'll figure it
yeah,
out.
Let,
Go ahead.
Let's see.
find very offensive and condescending about your statement is nobody would say to a bunch of white filmmakers, how could you do this to your people? This film has the right to be about these people, and Asian American characters have the right to be whoever the hell they want to be. They do not have to represent their people.
It's a historic.
Oh man, God bless Roger Ebert.
All right,
man.
rest in
It's-
peace, Roger
All
Ebert.
right.
It's nice to see him.
Rest in peace.
I mean,
He-
there's
he's
like
out- he's
towards
out
the end of
my-
his.
He's out of my bad books now for that comment.
Wait, why was he in the bad books in the first place?
Why was he?
Because
Yeah.
he's the guy who said that video games have no artistic merit.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, he's
said that?
ancient, so
Ebert.
Oh yeah, well, he's a movie guy. Of course, he's gonna say that. He's
Yeah.
protecting his cultural,
also he's too old. He won't get it. And plus, when did he make that remark?
Is that your way of segueing?
I
into
like what we're
Mortal
saying.
Kombat?
He's not too old to appreciate the artistic merit of Asian Americans, but he's way too
right.
old to understand video games.
I
That's
wanna-
that's where Plan A stands on this.
So, in raising that clip, I want to know: have we actually lived up or taken advantage of the principle that Roger Ebert was arguing for, or have
Big
we
no.
slid
Nope.
back into?
No, I would say
No,
Big
we've
tropes.
And I
regressed.
think we've slid back into the tropes, and I think
No, we've
Minari was an example of that.
Yeah.
Total regression.
No, Minari was the best example of doing that well, because it could have been super cringe, but it wasn't. It was a very well made film. But yeah,
it was
we're
good.
we're stuck in the self esteem phase. We just want to we just want to see things that make us feel good about ourselves, which, you know, I guess we kind of need that. But also, I want to see people.
Do we need it though?
Uh,
Who needs
I think
it?
some
Who
people
really
still
needs
do.
no,
it?
I think a lot of people.
Some people still do.
A lot of people out there they've got
It's
issues.
I
So.
think as a
It's-
group- in a
how does
group-
it?
in
How
a
does
group
it?
sense we
Okay, remember the whole great outpouring when like Eddie Van Halen died, and remember how Twitter was just so awful, where it's like,
Oh man,
I wish
that
I
was
knew
terrible.
that Eddie Van Halen was like 1/4 Indonesian, and I would have felt so much better about myself. And it's like, really?
Who said
Your
that?
life has
Was that
changed.
Angry
Did
Asian
someone say
man who
that?
said that?
So
Yeah,
many
someone said
people.
that.
So many
it was
people.
Jeff-
Someone
that crowd.
stupid like him.
Yeah.
Who is
Oh, I would,
Angry
like a
Asian
lot,
Man again?
a
What's
lot
his
of the
name?
representations.
Phil Yu, not to be mixed up with Phil Wang, the from Wong Fu.
Yeah.
They're two
Is
Phils.
Phil Yu the John Cho guy? The leading
No,
man?
that's Will
that
Yu.
William
That's
Yu?
Will Yu. Yeah.
That's Will Yu. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, one movie that could have been a follow up in the vein of Better Luck Tomorrow was that movie 21, but they
could have been.
watched it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, they made it
cast the
so
white
bad. The
But
book is good.
That was
Have
a
you read the
story
book?
that was very similar to
Yeah.
No.
Better Luck Tomorrow. Was these like sort of super
Right.
achiever Asian kids,
Yep.
but there's a dark side to that.
Absolutely.
And you know, instead of subverting, like, I think what's interesting is to say, instead of like, oh, you know what, I'm tired of like the model minority, I'm tired of these like Ivy League Asians. Let's like focus on like poor Asians, or let's focus on, you know, dumb Asians, or let's focus like
Dumb Asians.
like instead of just saying
Right,
like
right.
the problem is we're looking at these types of Asians, we need to look at other Asians. Like there's hidden aspects to all people. You know, and I think like if you focus on, we're going to focus on poor Asians in Arkansas, which Minari did. I mean, it still focuses on like how they're really these really good, you know, people who internalize all the pressures of life, but they never give up hope and all this shit. And it doesn't flip into like the sort of shadow sides of Asian people, which is why, you know, Pogo's comment I think is true. Like, that is the shadow, you know, like that is the shadow identity. The Virginia I forgot his name.
Cho
Cho,
Seung-hui.
I think was his last name.
Yeah, just call him Cho. Yeah.
But that's the shadow side, you know, like they won't do that story. But I think we need that. I mean, I think the next stage will have to be that kind of thing where
Yeah.
I
And
think it will. I think we're in a different media landscape. So I don't want to. So I'm actually like I'm agreeing with you
Chosun-hui.
guys that the stuff that we're seeing is a regression from Better Luck Tomorrow. But I also think the movie landscape did change considerably in the last like 20 years since it was made.
True.
I honestly think, and I'm willing to like put like my name to it, like. I think we're in a hyper digital era where people literally cannot conceptualize themselves as real until they see representation reflected back to them on the
Yes.
screen.
I agree.
I think this is something that most of us sitting here actually were shielded from because we didn't grow up in that time. None of us, like, if you grew up, and I really feel for people who, and I think this is exceptionally toxic for people who now are like the only Asian in school kinds, because then you're isolated on multiple fronts now, and you literally just have like your phone screen. Let's face it, your primary device is going to be your phone to see some kind of reflection of who you are as a person. I don't think people feel actualized, like literally actualized as people, until they see that. This is why the pressure for good representation is so keen, because you don't, if you need this to feel like a human, you don't want to feel like a shit human. So this is where this is where that really, and this is not just us either. This is across the board. So, like, I think we can be critical, but also fair that this is a thing that the entire media landscape is struggling with right now.
This is, even though I'm really critical of Wes Yang and his kind of right-wing, curious politics, let's say. One of the things I really enjoyed that he wrote was it's called The Face of Sung Hui Cho. I think
It's in his book.
It's in his book.
Yeah,
it's excellent. I think that was a
Probably
really,
his best
really
one so
good.
far.
Yeah, it was a really good exploration of the shadow side of the Asian American kid. Really loved that piece. It's probably one of the best pieces of Asian American writing I've ever read. Because it went there.
Yeah, but I mean,
Do we
I don't know.
have to
So
go?
part of me,
Sorry, go ahead, Jess.
part of me wonders if we have to kind of like if there is some sort of like developmental scheme to this too. Like we talk, like Eliza, you and I, we talked a lot about like Scorsese, right? How like ballsy that filmmaking was and how that kind of changed the game, and why it was so uniquely like late 70s and like Italian Americans doing this kind of really radical, really like dark filmmaking in that era. And then that was actually the tail. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask if Better Luck Tomorrow came out post or pre 9/11.
Post.
Because the movie landscape changed.
Was it post?
Post.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it came out in
Post,
04,
yeah.
03,
Oh,
something like
yeah.
that.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe the story was conceived before it, but it definitely came out afterwards.
And it was set before, right?
The event
It's-
that it's based on may have been pre.
Yeah.
9/11.
Yeah, he
'Cause
took
it's a
like
real-
10
it's
years
based on a real
to
life
write
story.
it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so
honestly,
it's
a lot of the
definitely
stuff
from-
that he was writing about is very recognizable if you grew up, if you were like a teenager in Southern California around that time.
Right.
Very recognizable. So very locked up time, but maybe like 10 years most relevant to people who were like 10 years prior to when the movie actually came out.
Right.
I know. I grew up in the East
Everybody
Coast,
ignores
and
all the Asian people that are walking around in Fast and the Furious movies.
You mean
Wait, say what?
Oh, you mean just
Extras?
like in the background and stuff?
Just, I mean, like,
Yeah.
even
It's
like
it's one of the
Han
most
himself.
normalized. Yeah.
Everyone
yeah, I mean,
completely
it's-
forgets about them.
I mean, one of them was set in Tokyo, right? So it's full of Japanese
Tokyo
people.
Drift.
The one
that's a
that
good
shall not
question,
be
right?
named, right? And then I think in the movie is set all over the world, right? So there are all sorts of places. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but Sung
But that
Kang
raises
is
a good question. Like, what
villain
actually does
character.
count as representation? Right? Because you're right. Like, nobody
Yeah.
points to Fast and the Furious as Asian representation, despite probably having like the biggest number of actual Asians on screen.
Right.
It's
Sung Kang,
I think
right?
it's when we're talking. I think people
Devin
think about it
Aoki?
when the Asians are
Oh, she's in
the
that? I
main
didn't know
characters.
Was Rick
I'm, like,
Yoon
holding a
ever,
pen,
ever in
like-
one of those
that.
films?
Yeah, he was the bad guy in the
Probably.
first one.
He was the bad guy in the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Not to mention two Asian directors. It was Justin Lin and,
Yeah.
and James Wan.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Lin
Yeah.
created the whole series, right?
Yeah.
Jess, you're saying it doesn't count as an Asian American movie unless they are the main focus or the entire cast, like Crazy Rich Asians.
Unless they're like the lone Asian among a sea of whites.
yeah,
Yeah, but
but
they must-
also
like,
like
usually they
weirdly,
have a speaking role, right, or
Nomadland. We're supposed to kind of see Nomadland as Asian representation
right.
because it has an Asian.
She's a
Director.
director.
I don't know, it was
we
kinda-
did it for Ang Lee, right? So why don't we
Yeah,
do
I
it for
guess.
Chloe?
You mean for
is
Brokeback Mountain or
Brokeback like a
something?
For
Asian
Brokeback,
movie?
I don't know. I didn't know.
He
I
I
directed
didn't
it. I don't know
consider
what
at
the
the time
rules
to
are.
be Asian representation, right? It was just he was the director, but it wasn't representing Asian Americans.
Well, that's what we're saying. Is that does it have to be on screen? Because I mean, the director's a pretty big part of the movie.
Yeah.
I think
it's
I
really
think
kinda
her being
nebulous.
Chinese and she's Chinese in that sense. I think she lives in America now, but she identifies strongly
Chinese,
with being someone from Beijing.
Yeah.
I think it kind of informs the way the movie goes. It was a very American movie, but from a certain perspective that I'm not sure.
It's almost like an anthropological study.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a certain fascination she has with these nomads.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, are not like houseless people. They're not like people who can't afford to live in homes. Like they
Right.
choose to do this. This is their thing. It's not about people who sleep in cars because they can't afford rent. But
Yeah, half the tweets I'm like, oh, you didn't watch the movie, did you?
exactly, yeah. And I mean, yeah, I think there's people have said this about like Ang Lee's Hulk, and also Sense and Sensibility. That like there was
One of my
sort
favorite movies.
outsiders. Yeah, there was a
What
certain
about Life
outsider
of Pi?
perspective.
Didn't he do that one too?
Yeah. Yeah.
He did that one, yeah. Though that was more purely like a fantasy type movie, and I think the writer is South Asian. But the Brokeback Mountain, the Hulk. I've actually never seen Hulk, but people have said it's worth revisiting because it's
okay.
like a pretty.
I mean,
No, I've never
it's
seen
not great. It's not good, but
I
it's
mean,
not
I don't
any
know, I
worse than
wonder
any
if-
of those other movies, right?
I mean, I'm
Like-
about to contradict myself when we talk about Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
that
like,
movie was
everyone
trash.
hates on Hulk, but I don't think they can point
that
to
the
any of
Edward
the other
Norton one?
Hulk movies and say that it's
Yes,
any
it
better.
Yeah.
is.
No,
Just-
no, not the Ed Norton one. It's the
No.
Eric.
No?
what's
It's
his
Eric
name?
Eric
Bana,
Bana- Eric
and-
Bana was
Eric
it.
Bana, and
Okay.
Nick Nolte is in it. You know what they laugh most about the Hulk poodles. So they're dogs that become Hulks, and he has to fight these dogs. But anyway, yeah, I mean it's an
Look,
interesting
everyone's
question.
got bills to pay. I don't know. Every time I
not?
see a bad movie, and look, every time I see a bad movie by a great director, I check Wikipedia to see if he got a divorce recently.
We got to talk about
That's
this
wh-
comment
that's where it
because
goes.
I don't know about this. Like, this is not. This is not okay. This is degenerate. Just don't. No.
I don't even want to look at the state of
Yeah.
my arms. Like I haven't been to the gym in over a year. I don't think I could even bench a bar at this point. It would be a struggle. But thank you for the delusional comment.
But yeah, no. But it's an interesting question, right, Eliza? That you,
Do we have a
Jess,
tip?
that you
Do we have a
posed.
tip jar? We should have a tip jar.
Right. One, yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
for
look,
moments like
okay.
this.
If there are no
Wait, hold
Asians
on.
in the movie,
because
but
when
there-
it comes to this thing, I think people have been. I've seen a lot of stuff about Chloe Zhao and you know this argument over. I think people like it really fucking pisses me off. There was an article in the New York Times about how China is like she's very controversial in China and she's raising this whole thing about artistic freedom of expression. I'm like,
Is
you know,
that right?
she's just making a movie in America about Americans. I don't know what the fuck it has to do with China. I don't know what her winning the Oscar for Nomadland has anything to do with China whatsoever. They've dug out these old quotes of hers where she's talking about, you know, what
Our history
her
or something like
experience
that,
or
right?
development as a filmmaker was and how being outside of China sort of informed that or whatever. That's just like, I don't know. People are turning her into this like competition, this like flashpoint between US and China. And I just finished watching her movie, and I'm like, it has nothing to do with this whatsoever. I just don't understand why she's become. I think it's really and it's fucked up because it's like Chinese women writing about this in the New York Times, turning her into a symbol of controversy. And then
Yeah.
fucking what's his name, TK, today is tweeting
Your
like,
best friend,
oh, yeah, fucking TK. He was like, oh yeah, China totally bombed. Like they could have totally leveraged her win as a
In
soft power
soft
flex
power.
the way Korea used Bong Joon-ho's win. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? This movie, it's about white nomads in America. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't know.
And I don't even
The-
know what
the
he
whole
means about
thing-
Korea leveraging it. Like, was there like some concerted government effort to like leverage Parasite? Like, I don't. Like, it's dumb.
Yeah, there was.
Honestly,
There
there probably
actually.
was, but okay, the whole thing
Yeah,
with
totally was.
Nomadland, the whole thing feels like a setup that feels as natural as. Remember when George Costanza tried to manufacture a situation where he could use the jerk store line? This whole thing
yeah.
feels like that, where in advance,
Another obscure
like the
Chris
American-
Oxford Seinfeld reference.
No, I remember it. I remember because he had this line and he needs to set it up. but
okay,
he-
so for non-Seinfeld fans, the setup is George gets burned at some meeting because
Mm-hmm.
he eats too much shrimp, and then he has this, what do they call it, like a esprit
the
l'escalier.
ocean called.
Yeah, you know
I think
that-
it's the shrimp. It's running out of shrimp.
Right, you know that
Yeah, the guy burned
French
him.
saying like esprit, what is
Esprit
it?
de corps.
No.
No?
It's like esprit l'escalier. It means something like staircase
I think
wit.
esprit de corps is the ballet thing.
Well, it's the different. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so it means
is sort of the opposite.
It means the perfect comeback you think when you're out and walking down the stairs when you should have come up with it like 5 minutes earlier. So George comes up with what he thinks is a perfect comeback like a day later, and he tries to get that guy in a meeting again so that he can use it on him, but then it fails miserably because the line's not funny at all.
That's very relatable.
Yeah,
that's-
it's very relatable.
So that's what this whole thing feels like. It feels like in advance, kind of like Tina, you and I spoke about this. What's her name? Eileen Gu. I think they're trying to set this up as like an Eileen Gu situation where they're going to own China by having this supposed dissident woman win the Oscars. But a couple of bad things happened. One, nobody cared about the Oscars. Actually, three things. And then two, the movie wasn't really about China at all. That it was hard to tie it up to it. And three, I think there was a whole little mini controversy with the movie itself because some people accused it of being too pro-Amazon, so it wasn't like there's already people against the movie.
I didn't
so.
get that either. I didn't
Well,
get
here's
the
the thing.
pro-Amazon
Yeah.
I thought it was
in it
not,
very
not
matter-of-factly.
anti-Amazon enough. I think was what
Well,
the controversy was.
Yeah.
Like they're criticizing the movie for not being the movie that they would make themselves or something, and it's
Fucking
like,
make the movie then.
yeah, it's like, I mean, criticize
It's a
it for
beautiful
what it
movie,
actually
by the way.
says.
It's
not
a really
like,
I love
fucking
the
good
movie.
movie.
yeah.
And I'm glad it
this
won
is what
Best
I wanted.
Picture.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that this is an interesting case because I think Chloe Zhao. I think it is important that there is a quote outsider voice that is bringing a perspective
Right.
into American life. That I think a lot of Americans, because they huff the copium too much, they won't do this movie that has. It's a very humble movie. It's not. It really. It's not too caught up in American exceptionalism. It's not too caught up in making critiques of America or defending
Right.
America. It's just saying these are
Presents it.
people. These are Americas. These are Americans as I see them, and this is a subculture of people that I think it would be nice to meditate on their lifestyle and their thinking for a couple hours. And
And it also says a lot about Chloe's directing that most of the cast is not even like real actors.
yeah, that's right. And her last film, The Rider, was very much like this. Also a beautiful
It
film.
sort of seems to be her style, right? Like it's
Yes,
her,
it's-
her
yeah,
way
it's a
of
very
making
unique
movies,
style
which
of hers.
is sort of a unique way of doing it. And to get the attention she gets for it. So she,
Yeah, and
you know,
I
that's
think
not
it's
usually
I think
a-
it's an important. I think it's an interesting case because here you're talking about an Asian. I guess I would call her Asian American because she lives in America. That to me is
Sure.
permanent residency is pretty much what decides it for me. But she is, celebrated as like the first non-white woman, POC woman to win Best Director, and it's this sort of like representational win that Chloe Zhao won, which is kind of ironic in a way. I'm not saying that this is a terrible thing, but like Asian Americans look at this and I think a lot of us are like, wow, we've made it. One of us, we won the Academy Award, The American Dream is Alive. But her film is about sort of the death of the American dream, right?
Right.
So there's
Yeah.
this weird thing. It's like, if you really respect her art and stuff, I don't know if representational wins is even relevant to her vision
right.
at all. I don't think that would be a recognizable theme in anything that she's brought to the table in terms of her films. So it's like, are we just celebrating the fact that she's an Asian woman, or are we actually celebrating her artistic vision? Because I don't think anyone's celebrating her artistic vision, which is fucked up because this is a great movie.
But I don't even know people are celebrating her as an Asian woman that much in the sense that at least when the nominations came in, there was like 10 times more buzz for Stephen Yeun than there was for Chloe Zhao. Like I didn't really hear much about her.
Yeah, but
at
she
all.
won, didn't she?
And she won in the end.
She did.
Right, and Stephen didn't.
It's kind of like what people don't realize is Ang Lee won 2 fucking Oscars for Best Director, and nobody really even realizes
Yeah.
it.
He had a Best Picture nomination too. He didn't win though.
He should have won. That's like the one year that everyone realizes the wrong movie won, the Crash year
Yeah.
over Brokeback Mountain. But there was you know how with this recent spate of martial arts movies that have come out, a lot of Asian Americans were saying, "Oh, well, at last we're on, the stars of martial arts movies." But again, it's like that's like the
Finally.
one thing that we've been allowed to do, and other people have said there's like a lot of these representation matters people. They gotta pretend that this is the first time things are happening, and it's not. Especially with something
They
like
don't
martial
watch
arts.
movies. They don't
Either-
watch movies.
Either
They
that
watch all-white
or
movies, and then they wonder why there's no Asian people in the movies that they watch.
yeah, either that or they just gotta make their own accomplishments seem much more revolutionary than it is. So yeah.
Yeah, or the movies that come out that have Asian people are not the ones they want to see, right? For example, Fast and the fucking Furious, right? They don't count it as
I've
art,
always
they
loved
don't
Fast
count
and
as-
Furious. I don't
love
know.
Fast
I
and
like Tokyo
Furious.
Drift.
I-
I'm like, I know it's not. I know that like it's problematic,
Tokyo
whatever.
Drift
but
is like one of
it's
my
great.
favorite ones. It's Fast 5 that I hate.
The one Fast and Furious movie I've seen in the theaters was Too Fast, Too Furious.
See, the naming
Probably the
is
worst one
also
of them all.
amazing because they lean into like how absurd it is, right?
Yeah.
They don't like if you were gonna be too serious about your movie about freaking fast cars, you would never have named it Too Fast, Too Furious with the number 2, right? Literally 2. Like you would never do that. So I respect it. I respect it.
It's like the only franchise that gives love to the ABGs.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Tons,
They
yes.
do.
all ABGs.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Just
If you want to talk about an underrepresented minority,
right.
you know,
Also, I think Fast
Yeah.
and Furious is like the all-time like
Highest
biggest-
grossing,
highest
yeah,
grossing
right?
franchise.
It's gotta be.
It's
And
got to be with 9
including
films.
Wait,
Nine-
including James Bond?
well, the ninth
Including
one
James
hasn't
Bond,
come
really?
out yet. When does
let's see.
F9 come out?
Soon?
Oh, I thought it already came
I
out.
think this year.
I thought we were on number
It was
10.
supposed
This
to
year.
come out. It was supposed to come out last year. It was postponed. Me and
Do
the
they just
kids
call
are
it F9
anxiously
now?
awaiting.
Yeah.
F9. It's like that sounds like a function key.
It is.
See, I think when people talk about representation, the meaning is so vague. Like all 6 of us had different interpretations of it. So I think when you see that, it really, it's not it's you have to look at the person saying that to figure out what they mean. And generally, I think this is and I feel kind of bad because I feel like I get too close of a glimpse into people's psyches, but it's Asian representation when it's who they personally want to be. So this is why like the ABGs, you know, the working class Asians in Fast and Furious don't actually quote count, but the hardworking noble farmers of Minari do. For women, this is why we don't see like ABGs. But you know, what's her face in Crazy Rich Asians?
I can't
Counts.
believe nobody wants to be an ABG.
Well, I mean,
The
I've certainly
original
learned
form is-
more about ABGs because I just thought it was like an aesthetic and they were just sort of, you know, these ditzy people. And then I learned that they were going to cut people, right? I'm like, hey,
No, that's
fuck with
yeah.
them a lot
The
more
aesthetic
now.
is the appropriation.
Yeah.
I remember like this. It was like 1999, I think. My car broke down. And I was kind of lost. This is before smartphones and GPS. So if you're lost, you're kind of lost. I was like, it's kind of sketchy.
Map
It was like
questing.
2 a.m. Yeah, you know, like I didn't have. Yeah, I had like one of those Nokia phones. I couldn't do shit with those. What was I gonna do? Run to someone's house and ask
Print
to
it
use
out
it?
before you leave the house.
You take one wrong turn and you're screwed. So anyway, it was kind of my car was busted. It was 2 a.m. It's kind of a shady neighborhood, and I remember it was like close to like Westminster, like that area. And then like these two girls helped me out. And then at one point, like this kind of sketchy looking guy came over and like they literally just started yelling at him. And then like one of them like actually had a blade in her purse. Like I forever owe a debt to the ABGs. Like
and
like
Calvin.
they were like.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jess.
No, they were like on it. They're like, okay, we're gonna call roadside assistance. We're gonna get you that spare back on your car. We're gonna get you on your way. We're gonna set, and it's like, wow, your fake eyelashes didn't budge once. This is amazing.
Once.
What is this? What the hell?
If she
that's the
loses her
kinda-
knife, she's going to take her lashes off. Throw those. But
Yeah, a little nunchuck action.
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, it's a so like and that's like the area where that happened, where it's like working class, like generally like Vietnamese, Southeast Asian communities in that part of SoCal. We're actually in solidarity with like Black and Brown movements. So it's a very like politically active movement. The aesthetic kind of carried from that, saying like we are gonna be very visibly not, you know, white assimilationists, unlike, you know,
Yeah.
Jane Kim, who wants to go to UCLA and major in, you know, like medieval English or some shit.
Those are
Right.
the
Well-
don't give a fuck Asians I was referring to in our
Yeah.
first, you know, live stream on the West Coast, and there's the same group on the East Coast, like in New York City as well, right? The ones who are like more working class, a bit more black adjacent, right? They're never gonna get movies made of them. They're not, even though they do actually great things for the community and they have a community.
What about Aquafina?
Well, that's fair. She's the one who maybe has risen from that pack to.
She's a don't
get
give a
films
fuck
made.
Asian, right?
Yeah,
I would
bet
say
she-
that,
She
yeah.
seems to be of that
I want to
aesthetic.
tell
of-
John Lee, whose comment they are. That's why I'm here.
That's right. And yes,
Yep.
and they are bringing Han back. Han is going to be in that
OG
film.
ABGs
dead.
are 40 now, like me.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're not just on TikTok playing Overwatch, right?
That's
They're,
right.
they're,
Yeah.
That's right.
That's a very seems like a
you
very
were-
un-ABG thing to do. Too.
If
told you
you
they're
were
selling-
honest
they're
there,
selling
Eliza.
real estate.
Thank you.
That's what
in
they're doing.
1996, like me, then this is that was the OG ABG era.
ABGs have cornered the market on the intersection of Instagram and realty.
See, a lot of those are posers.
Yes,
though.
realtors.
I'll let Eliza call out the posers in her tribe, but you know, I gotta say, as someone who's I'm very upset about this.
You ha-
a lot of them
yeah.
are posers. They'll
And
do
you have
Oh my
to be-
god,
music, they'll try
that
to kinda
website
ape it.
Yeah.
is so like late 90s.
Oh yeah, no, actually, this
You have to tell us, Liza, did you ever ride in
This-
one of these?
this
You
thing.
gotta tell us.
This webpage
So
has been up
my
since
boyfriend from
96.
freshman year of college drove a CRX with like a big bra on it and a spoiler.
Yeah. It probably would show up on Brian's Rice Boy Hall of Shame. This
This
has
is
been
like-
up since the 90s.
That's
It's never
This
gone
is like
down.
something you would find on Alta
it's a
Vista
camera.
after you put in
He
a
was
search.
Vietnamese. He worked at the auto detailing shop. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh, and Integra Tech.
Nice.
at
And he could get a
that.
great
Yeah.
deal on a spoiler
Holy
if you
shit.
needed it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there it is.
Look at that.
Look at that custom paint.
Look at
That's
that.
awesome.
The Identity
that a
Crisis
fucking-
Geo.
There's one in there that has a sticker that says "Powered by Vietnam." I need to find
That's
that.
dope. We
Are
gotta
you
have that sticker,
serious?
man.
Okay, we gotta find
We
that
should
one.
remake
Where's-
that sticker and sell it on our.
It's
shop
the
or
second
something.
link.
Yeah.
Goddamn.
Look at
It's
how
the second
tall the
link?
spoiler is in the third picture. Scroll down.
Yeah. Look at that.
Does this
That-
website have
Oh
music
wait.
playing?
Oh, okay.
You go
It's
to
volume
it?
5.
So,
Yeah.
so this
I was
is
gonna-
this is the reality of the '90s. Like Fast and Furious is the wet dream, and this is what you wake up to. This
It's
is
just-
this is the
it's
actual
Justin
rice
Lin.
scene.
Last
It's just
modified
like-
9/29/1998.
Yeah.
Wow, legit. Okay.
Yeah.
This is
Philip,
history
you were
right
saying
there,
something?
You
kids.
definitely played Mortal Kombat.
I was
Click the
wondering
second
if,
link,
if,
Adam.
Yes.
You were
Justin
into
I
this,
got it,
you
I
were
got it.
also-
was Justin Lin from this period and just like never grew out of it, basically?
Well, he's what, like in
Probably.
his 40s, maybe in his 50s. Well, we can look it up.
So I don't know.
Look it
I don't know
up.
about never grew out of it, but I think
Here it
think
is.
He can't be close to
type of
our
action.
age because
He's 49.
his movies.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
1971.
That's awesome.
That makes
That's
sense.
Amazing. That's
What's the
amazing.
question? Yes, it is. It is powered by Vietnam.
That's so dope.
There you go.
That's awesome.
All right, Liza brought up Mortal Kombat, so we
Yes.
should talk about. We were talking about Asian American art. We need to talk about Mortal Kombat 2021.
Yeah.
All
Let's talk about that.
So,
All right, so-
who's seen it? Who's seen it?
Jess, have you seen it? If you say yes, everyone here has seen it.
Saw it twice.
No, I have not. I
Oh,
didn't know
saw it
it was homework
twice.
for this episode.
I was pretty
Okay.
high when I saw it, so my memory might not
That's a
hold.
fair way to see it.
But,
do you mind spoilers,
it was-
Jess? If we talk about it.
Nope.
Oh yeah,
No,
massive
I'll probably
spoilers.
pop a gummy and watch it too. Yeah.
That's
don't
what
care.
I did, and I think that was the right call.
So, what did everyone think?
Garbage.
I loved it. I will call it.
It was very
Enjoyable garbage.
Enjoyable garbage, yeah, pretty much.
It was enjoyable garbage,
wanna-
but not as enjoyable as MK95. For
No,
garbage.
it's not as good
No,
as the
I
original.
So,
mean,
okay, I want to be the first to admit that I probably like my memories of the original 1995 Mortal Kombat movie more than I like the movie itself. Like, I'm kind of scared to
Possible.
rewatch it because I'm scared to rewatch it because I don't think it's going to survive the test of time. I think it
Yeah, probably.
barely survived 1995. Like, if it weren't for the fact that I was only 14 when I saw it,
your memory is probably going to be like Tokyo Drift, and the reality is going to be Brian's Rice
You know
Boy.
what though? It's because 1995, like those years for me at 14 were such a that was such like a magical time for me, because it was like so Mortal Kombat 95 gets wrapped up into all that nostalgia of like so like the whole country was like totally different. My childhood at 14 is different than what my kids are gonna have when they are 14.
Definitely.
So Mortal Kombat to me is like memories of walking around the mall when the mall still had an arcade, because Mortal Kombat to me was an arcade game, you know. And that was I don't want to rewatch the 95 movie because something.
I think it
tells
holds
me-
up. I mean, obviously you have to have different expectations, but
I
think it holds up.
rewatched
Is that the?
Enter the Dragon for our martial arts, our warrior episode on Unverified.
Yeah.
Then I watched MK95, and then like I just watched MK21. And seeing those in succession is kind of interesting because like, you know,
Yeah.
the original MK movie and the game was inspired by Enter the Dragon for the most part, right? There's so many
Yeah, it's a rip.
parallels,
It's
right?
a
Yeah.
rip
It's
off.
funny
of,
that you bring that
Dragon.
up because I didn't really know much about Mortal Kombat, the new one going into it. I only saw like one trailer, but I was expecting like a tournament movie because it's
Yeah.
called Mortal Kombat. So
Yeah.
I was expecting like a blood sport or an Enter the Dragon.
Or
I mean, let's face it.
MK95.
Otherworld is China. Shang Tsung is Xi Jinping. Raiden is.
He does kind of look like Xi Jinping.
He
Yeah,
does.
and
the
and,
hairline.
and
kinda
the whole
look like-
point of Raiden was like, I don't know what he was like WTO or something, and the
Right.
whole point
it's
was
supposed
that
to be Conor McGregor.
yeah, the
Yeah,
other world,
in a way.
the other
Trying to
world,
tie in the MMA thing to make it modern.
yeah, but the communists they won't play by the rules. You see what I'm saying? They're
Yeah.
cheating.
Mm.
They're
They
not.
come and they'll just murder your people or steal your IP, whatever. Same thing.
Yeah, they won't
Yeah.
follow the tournament rules, and that was the whole problem. And I think the movie
I don't
sucked
understand
because
the point of having a tournament if they're all just going to keep like going into each other's realms and just killing each other.
yeah, and it was disorganized. You know, they would just teleport to random rooms. It was like Mortal Kombat, like done through Zoom. Like they would just fucking Goro was in his backyard. I mean, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, actually,
That's
Teen,
not a
you
s-
should.
That's not a
You
level.
if you want
This
that,
is-
you should watch
Sure it is.
Warrior, because in the second season there is a whole episode that is homage to what's that Bruce Lee movie that is a tournament.
Enter the Dragon.
Enter
one
the
I said.
Dragon.
Enter the Dragon.
I think there's another one, but yeah, sure. And the whole thing is
Which one
that
is it? The one where he goes up the tower? Because that's not Enter the Dragon, is it?
I'm not sure. I've only seen Enter the Dragon, but yeah, that's the whole episode
Wait,
set up.
say that again, Chris. You
Say what?
The only Bruce Lee movie you've ever seen is Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, don't kill me.
No wonder you like Warrior so much.
But anyway, yeah, if
it's
you want
the
a
only
proper
martial
tournament
arts thing you've ever
style martial arts thing, watch Warrior. Yeah. Maybe Game of Death. Maybe that's the one. Yeah. Anyway,
That's, like, only the second half of the movie is. Well, you know what? When it comes to video game movies, though, I think that I think that the video game industry and gamers in general, like, it doesn't matter if Mortal Kombat's not that good of a movie. They don't need Hollywood acknowledgement. It's not the same as the other
Nowadays,
nerd
anything.
culture, which is comic books, which I think at this point needs Hollywood more. Like, comic book culture needs
Yeah.
Hollywood more than Hollywood needs
To
comic
grow.
books to survive.
oh yeah,
Oh,
comic books are
definitely.
dead. Who
The reason-
reads
Comic books
that
are dead.
anymore?
They're dead.
Yeah, no one reads, but everyone, like gamers, will continue. Like the video game industry is definitely making more money than Hollywood right now.
Oh,
I
they
think
make
these
more money
movies-
than
I think these
Hollywood,
movies
music,
are-
sports,
Yeah.
all put together.
No, I think
All
these
of them. All of
I think
them.
these movies are extended advertisements for the video game.
Yeah, yeah.
At
So
this
I think
point,
it was
some
very
of it
bold
is, yeah.
For I think it was pretty bold for Mortal Kombat to make a movie without the tournament and like without Kitana and without Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
they replaced Johnny
Surprised to
Cage
not
with
see
Cole
them there.
Young, and it was a mistake because Johnny Cage is like the only hero in that in the hero camp that has a personality. Everyone else is so fucking boring and like
Well,
sincere.
there's Kano. I mean, if you only
Yeah, but
consider
Kano's
there's
hilarious.
only
An
room for one
anti-villain, right?
prick,
He's an
you got-
anti-villain, right?
Kano calls Liu Kang when he first sees him. He calls him, all right, that's close enough, MC Hammer." And
Yeah.
I was just cracking
But
up.
the problem with Kano is that he suffers from a very typical Hollywood problem where there's like a certain Hollywood writers think that normal people constantly drop references, And almost
True,
every other
yeah.
sentence that Kano says is a reference to something that in like 10 years nobody will know what the hell he's talking about.
MC
So
Hammer's timeless though.
yeah,
That's
MC
a-
Hammer is the
yeah.
timeless one, but I don't know. Like, are people in 10 years gonna know what Magic Mike is? I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe.
Yeah, but Magic Mike came out like what?
The other funny part was
10
how like
years
to
ago.
find
10
his
years ago?
Arcana,
Yeah, Magic
to
Mike
find
was
his
a long
like
time ago.
secret warrior power, he just had to go on like a somewhat racist tirade.
Right. He just got really angry because Kung.
He told the guy
Kung Lao
to,
wouldn't
like,
give him an
hand
egg roll, so
and
he's
then
like,
he got upset,
give me the
and
egg
then he
roll.
He told him to suck his balls, and then he was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna shove that sombrero so far up your ass you're gonna speak Spanish, and then his eye popped out. I was like, his secret power is he's racist. Cool.
Yeah.
So Adam, the reason why they did Cole Young instead of Johnny Cage was
Yeah.
because according to the director or the writer in an interview, they thought that Johnny Cage was too much of just like a normal straight white guy character to have, and so they wanted more
Okay.
representation. What was interesting was that for once representation meant like instead of gender bending or adding a black
Right.
character or whatever, they added a straight white guy. Or sorry,
Well, they
Asian
removed
guy.
a straight
They
white guy.
removed the straight white guy and added a straight Asian guy instead, or half. a
Yeah,
guy or
no,
whatever,
I get that, but I think they replaced, a funny, interesting character.
No, but that's a setup
with,
because
like,
He
it's
won't
set up
be
so that he
totally
comes in the
replaced.
second
This is
movie,
the
right?
age of
Yeah.
the multiverse.
That's true.
It
He'll
looks
come-
like they're
yeah,
setting
he'll-
up Mortal
yeah.
Setting
Kombat
up-
to become like some sort of multiverse franchise.
true.
Johnny
That's true.
Cage will show up,
Joe-
and there will be a.
well,
tournament
they
at
said
some
they said
point.
that in the end where he's going to Hollywood to find Johnny Cage.
Yes,
but
and-
Philip,
That's true. That's true.
Joe Taslim has been signed for 5 MK movies. Okay.
Yeah, so
they're,
we know he's coming
preparing-
back.
Yeah, they're preparing for 5
I didn't know
fucking
that.
movies. Yeah.
yeah, the movie should have
Oh,
been about
it's gonna
Sub-Zero
be
just
like-
being a total psycho. That would have been.
Well,
the
it
best
just should have been,
movie.
it should have
Then,
been
like-
Scorpion and Sub-Zero fighting the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
come on. Like, that first 7
I
minutes,
feel
like you
like there's
said,
a
team,
Lego
was like
set
the best
in the
7
works
minutes.
that's going to be released pretty soon.
A what? A Lego
Lego?
set?
A Lego,
Lego
set.
set. That's how you know it's legit.
The whole
That's
movie looks like
Yeah.
a giant Lego set.
Yeah,
Well,
it's true.
No,
Where'd
not
you
only
go?
that. Oh, maybe internet problem. Did anyone get like Power Ranger vibes, especially Outworld? The costumes they wore.
Well, the corny dialogue, yeah.
Like I thought the Shang Tsung, he looked like something out of Power. Like Rita, Rita from
Rita Repulsa.
yeah, Rita Repulsa, and then like the suits they wore, it was very like Power Rangers / like VR troopers.
Ludi
and-
Lin is literally the Black
VR
Ranger. So
troopers.
I love VR troopers. That show's a classic.
By the way, am I the only one who thought Johnny Cage, based on the original video game, was actually Asian?
Oh, wait, not that one.
no.
what are you looking at?
That was cottagecore.
That was the cottage core
Oh.
stuff.
Okay, I'm like, whoa, we got way
Hey,
too
look,
close
we all
to look
switch
at.
places on the screen.
Yeah.
I think I'm at the same place.
Adam, pull
But the
that
bottom-
picture up.
bottom
This is
row.
the bottom
Huh?
row.
Pull the picture up.
I'm trying, okay? I have a lot of things.
You don't think he looks kind of Asian? I don't know. I always thought based on the movie, based on
No,
the movie.
he's a
No.
straight up
I
white
can
guy.
see
He's
how he
just
would
a white
be.
dude.
His hair
Really?
maybe, and since you can't really see
can-
his face or his eyes,
can
it
kinda
wouldn't be the
see how-
it wouldn't be the craziest thing. Yeah.
His name's Johnny
Yeah.
Cage. For
Yeah.
fuck's sake.
I think he's.
It
I
could be a
think
stage
he
name,
could
though.
He could be plausibly Asian.
But Philip, you're right about Louis Tan. He's not a good actor, and
He
it's
sucks.
No, he sucks. Oh my god, why are you so
God,
bad,
he's
Lewis?
so
I'm sorry, I
bad.
love you, bro, but dude.
also I thought it was hilarious. I remember when Goro attacks him, and then after that, his wife and daughter, despite seeing like a 8 foot tall 4-armed green man try to kill their dad / husband, they're just like, oh cool, yeah, you know what, just brush it off.
No, they try to.
they
act
like
it.
get the shotgun out, try to shoot it, It's like
Hey, Philip, who's Cabal? Who is
Yeah,
that?
Cabal-
that must be
Cabal
in the
is
later.
He's in MK3, I think. He's
Yeah,
he's like
he's
Kano's
later,
rival
for
or
sure.
something like that. Yeah.
Because I'm just like, who is this person? And like, I don't. To me, Mortal Kombat canon is just it's the first movie.
There's a couple characters. There's the winged lady, and there's the guy with the hammer who's from. They're like deep cuts. Like they're deep cuts into like MK
Yeah.
much later.
What does
for the
what
fans,
does Cabal
right?
sound like in the game? Because
I think he sounds
does
a
he
bit like
talk like
that.
that?
He has a crazy
sou-
mask on, it's like a respirator, right?
You sound like
So,
an extra
Yeah.
from The Sopranos.
Yeah, but those characters
is
are
he
again
from like
like
Long
it's-
Island? Or is
No,
he
he had that like Italian mob
Yeah,
accent.
he did. He did.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah.
Why
That was
but-
hilarious. That cabal was hilarious.
Yeah, it's fan service, right? It's fan service. It's much like the leg sweeping scene with Liu Kang.
Yeah,
and, that was all fan service for people like us who played the game who are like, oh my god, I remember that.
That's
in the game,
probably the only spoiler for Jess, honestly.
The heck?
They did include the best
I'm like
fatality.
listening, and I have no idea if you guys like this movie or not. It's kind of funny.
like it.
I have
I
no
like it.
idea.
It was obviously a bad movie, but it was entertaining.
If you're not a Mortal Kombat fan though, you do have to you kind of have to let people coming in that like this is not Nomadland, and it's not like
No.
it's not Enter the Dragon, it's not Bloodsport, it's like barely even Karate Kid.
So is this like
so-
the Doritos of like Asian
This would be like a
representation,
Ninja
or
Turtle movie if you're
the
not a
Ninja
fan.
Turtles?
So Teen is still trying to make his case that
Like a
Johnny Cage
rated
looks
R.
I
Asian.
think he could
And-
totally.
not
I think they
Asian.
could totally have just taken Johnny
No.
Cage and made him half Asian or
You know what?
Asian. I don't see
Well,
why.
Louis
No,
Tan
Teen,
is
I'm
half
with you. I
Asian,
think
right?
I thought. I
always thought he was
thought
Asian.
he was Asian,
Yeah.
No.
but just from the video
on,
games way
guys.
back
Well,
when.
his character is also clearly half Asian because his daughter,
I thought that he
whom
was
I thought was
full
his younger.
Asian.
Right, but like, oh wait, never mind. Anyway,
I also thought it was his younger sister. I didn't realize.
yeah,
it was
she
his
looked a little
daughter.
too old to be his
He does-
daughter, unless he had her very
Yeah,
young.
does.
Yeah, but I was like, whoa, she called him dad. I thought it was his younger sister, and
When did he have her? When he was like 13?
No, but he's supposed to be like a washed up MMA character, right? So he's probably like in his 40s or 50s or something like that.
50s.
The whole
40s.
Damn.
He's
40s. 40s.
He's half
40s.
Asian. He looks young. Like
I thought he was more like
Maybe
late
like
20s.
35.
I thought it was like late 20s.
No.
Yeah.
No.
35 maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean,
kinda-
Louis Tan
yeah,
is sort of
I
like a
guess
real
it's-
life Johnny Cage.
well, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
in a
yeah,
sense,
I mean,
right?
he-
A lot
yeah,
of
he's-
those guys, yeah.
He's a kind of straight to DVD ish movie actor, but he's a great martial artist as Johnny Cage is in the lore of the game.
Yeah, I thought in the
So he
original, I
fits-
thought they had whitewashed Johnny Cage. I always kind of expected him to be an Asian dude.
they whitewashed
I know-
Raiden. That's it, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They did.
So
well,
what's the next movie? For
they had
Mortal
David
Kombat? It's
Carradine
gonna be
played.
Like,
Was it David Carradine who
it's
played
gonna be
Raiden?
like Sub-Zero
Yeah.
and like Noob Saibot. Like who's?
Well, it's obviously gonna be
No, it
Cole going to find Johnny Cage. Sub Zero is obviously gonna be back because Joe Taslim
sucks.
who sucks.
Cole.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wish
he
they
really
would-
seems unnecessary. They really should have just made Sub Zero the main character because he's obviously the coolest character.
He's
Yeah.
just there to insert
Scorpion.
weight. Like he's just
Scorpion.
there to
Yeah.
insert Muay Thai into the lore because that's the accepted
And the
form of
MMA
martial
stuff,
art,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Was,
Like,
were
that's
they
exactly
were
what
they
it's there for.
were they like taunting? Was he taunting Sub-Zero by calling him Bihan, like calling him by his Chinese name? Is that? And he was like, "I'm not
taunting?
Bihan.
I'm not
I'm
sure.
like, what? You prefer being named after a fucking refrigerator? Like, what's wrong?
I did think it was cool how you
They
have
are really expensive refrigerators, though.
That's true. They're pretty premium products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it was
Walking
cool
fridge.
how
Yeah.
Bihan was Chinese and what's Hanzo was Japanese.
Yeah,
I got like
Japanese,
you know
Oh,
Sino-Japanese
bullshit.
war.
It opens. Here, look. It opens up with a Chinese guy going to Japan and massacring a Japanese family. I'm like, all right, everybody.
That was
I
the
don't know
high
about
point
this.
of the film for me because after that
Don't
I
read
felt
into it
like
too
it was very much. It has
Yes,
such
aside
a strong opening, and then after that you're just like, oh, is this
Yes.
the
Yeah.
same movie?
I totally
yeah,
agree.
yeah. No,
Well,
aside
it's
from the, how
premium.
ridiculous
It was
that
premium.
like
Well,
China
they-
versus Japan stuff
Yeah.
is, yeah. I mean that
Also,
fight
Hiroyuki's a
choreography
real
was
actor,
amazing.
not like Louis Tan.
Yo,
So-
Hiro,
Right.
I gotta say,
He's amazing.
Hiroyuki, pretty hot.
Well, yeah,
like
Liza's man. Yeah.
He's got that.
Don't
Teen-
touch.
He's got that gravitas.
Yeah.
You know what I
Get in
mean?
line.
The,
Get in line.
the samurai gravitas. He's great.
No, he's
So good.
awesome. He's awesome,
good.
and like
Honorable grumpy guy. Yeah.
you know,
What-
and
Yeah,
you know what I like, though?
we have a code here. None of us are allowed. Hiroyuki's Eliza's.
Okay,
None of us get him. Yeah.
Okay,
that's
I
okay.
wasn't-
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Also, well, the movie's bookended by two great scenes, which is the opening and then the fight scene between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. So the middle of the movie just feels like filler, which makes you question why is it there in the first place.
It's a lot of world building, and I feel like a lot of these sci-fi and fantasy movies have tried to do too much of that world building, and they do it just by sort of have people talk, and you don't need to do that. Just show the action, show the costumes, just do that stuff. Like no one cares about the off-world, that world politics, right? No one's into that lore, okay? They just want to see Scorpion do the get over here thing. They want to have,
Yeah, but they do those
you know,
things. They do.
Sub-Zero freeze people. They want to
Yeah.
see like Reptile. They don't care about them.
So embedded into this discussion, there was I think someone was making this point, which is that the Kung Fu Asian guy is a trope. But is it a cool trope? Is that like a trope you want to lean into because you get Ludi Lin, who was ridiculously ripped. Jesus Christ, that was like CGI level.
He had great hair as well. I love
He
his
did.
hair.
Insanely
I wish
ripped.
I could get that hair.
He was Bruce Lee ripped.
Robin Shu's hair for the original Liu Kang was way better in the.
That's
True,
what,
he
yeah.
had
was
good
like
hair.
fluffed
But that's,
up
Philip,
and,
you said that
like,
before, yeah.
Lower.
But
That was,
Ludi Lin had good hair too.
He did.
I do
was
want
amazing.
to. I do want to address what Monica said. I do wonder if Tekken, they're gonna make a Tekken movie. They got some cool characters in
They
there.
have to. They will.
Has there ever been a
there have
Tekken
been.
movie? I
Yes.
don't
No,
know.
Yes.
Bear guy.
No, there.
Wait,
there,
has?
Yeah, there have been.
There has.
It must have been
Definitely.
terrible. It must have been terrible.
Here,
You know
I'll
what
look it up.
though?
Let's see.
That's a smart reboot. Because like you know, even this one, because the
Yeah.
first
Oh
Mortal
yeah, there was a
Kombat,
2009
it's-
movie.
it's- like I would say that if they remake Tekken, that would also be a smart reboot. You know, it's prime time for it.
It had Carrie
There have been a
Hiroyuki
couple.
Really,
Tagawa.
really good. What?
Oh yeah,
Am
he
I
was a
freezing?
great
It had,
Chainsaw.
yeah, the
There've been a couple.
2010 Tekken movie.
I didn't even know there was a Tekken movie.
Yep,
No,
there were
the
a couple.
Mortal
Yeah,
Kombat
the
movie.
poster makes it look like some like noir, like Asian, like Hong Kong crime drama or something. Now, it's got a
sounds
lot
dope.
of cool names. Like Carrie Hiroyuki Tagawa.
Jin Kazama.
Let's see. Jonathan
No.
Patrick Fu. John Fu. Is
Yep.
that name familiar? Not a lot.
Uh,
Kung Lee.
Kung Lee's an actual MMA fighter.
Oh, okay.
Who's Ian Anthony Dale?
Yep.
Like, I saw-
Tamlin Tomita.
Ian Anthony Dale. We all
Yeah.
know who that is.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So Tekken could happen. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Like,
So are you saying that like there's
Is
a,
Chris mad? Did
it-
Chris storm off?
yeah he's done with this conversation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right.
Like, is there this question of like, should we lean more into martial arts film, right? Despite the fact people are like, oh, I don't want to be represented as like the karate guy, the kung fu guy anymore. Is
I
it
do.
actually coming
I
back?
want
Is it a good thing?
ABGs and martial artists. That's what I want.
I think that's what Warrior showed. I think Warrior showed you can do a good martial arts movie or TV show.
I
or
think
whatever.
that all of Asian American cinema from now on should be martial arts, ABGs, and then like alt-right Asian guys like Andy No.
Oh God, no!
Shout
Can we
out-
not have the last
shout out-
one? Can we just have this
Or
other
psych
two?
or
No,
psychos,
let's-
Asian American
let's go with
psychos.
Yeah.
Asian
chosen
nerds.
Go ahead.
Asian nerds.
Yeah.
We got
Yes,
under,
Street Fighter
we
would
got
be a
undersold.
good because the first one wasn't very
Yeah.
good at all. So Street Fighter would be a good reboot too.
So the first Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia.
Camp
is-
classic.
I know Raul Julia
classic
is
now.
so amazing as an actor, but he's in this, and the original Street Fighter is just so trashy. It's like it's almost good in a sense that it's like so bad. And Raul Julia just vamps it up as like M. Bison, and like if you know what M. Bison is from the games, you're like, this is not M. Bison, but you're like, well, okay, I kind of get it. But
Bison also played Thai, not Latino.
right,
I
he's
feel
also
like
not. Yeah,
once
he's also
you hear
Asian,
the
not Latino.
backstory, I can't smack talk Street Fighter. I mean, it has such a sad story, right? Is it
It is.
Raul Julia who was dying
Yeah.
during filming? Yeah, so
Yeah.
he
Oh, really?
vamped it all. Like this was his last chance. He had young children,
Take
and
it
this,
back,
and he
Chris. He was making
dialed
Street
it
Fighter
back.
for his kids.
That's right. He's
Oh,
getting
no,
that
nothing,
money,
nothing
okay?
against Raul Julia.
Like, he-
Nothing against Raul Julia.
yeah. So he like completely dialed it up to 11 because it was like my kids will probably only know me through like this movie,
Right,
basically.
right.
And some other yeah.
Yeah, and it's
That's,
just, it's just
uh,
funny.
I think
That
possibly, yeah. It's possible.
Did the rise?
that's
of
very
UFC
that's very Spencer Tracy and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner because he too was dying in that movie and he was making it as like a legacy thing, but
Oh,
totally
interesting.
unrelated. Yeah. Anyway, also one thing lame about Cole Young also he was the only guy who couldn't beat his opponent one-on-one, right? Because he needed Sonya's help to kill Milena.
That's right.
Huh?
He almost
Oh.
died. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say that
No,
again.
in the Mortal Kombat movie, remember how in the end they all take on one of the Outworlders to defeat?
Yeah.
So what's his name? Jax takes
like
on.
whoever kills you, they get like the mark.
Well, no, but
They, like,
in the end,
That
remember
thing?
when
And there's
like
like the tournament part, right?
yeah, there's like
closest to the
towards
tournament.
the end when they fight one-on-one with
Right.
each of the Outworlders.
Right. 'Cause
Jax
Raiden's-
takes on the
yeah.
guy with the big hammer, and then Sonya takes on Kano. Cole is the only one who cannot beat his opponent one-on-one, because after Sonya,
but Kung Lao dies.
yeah, Kung Lao was also very lame. He did not seem very imposing. Also, his costume is ridiculous. It looked like his hat weighed. It looked like a big nacho hat. You know those when you can buy.
I was saying,
Sombrero.
he's technically, if you really think about it, he's Captain Mexico. That's who he is.
Yeah, it felt like he would break his neck if he just, accidentally moved it the wrong way. The hat would crush him. It's a
Strong ass neck.
yeah.
That's
That's
right.
why I
That's
think
part of his training, right? Like it's a weight.
yeah, that's the problem. I think if you make Mortal Kombat live action, it looks ridiculous because all the costumes are so impractical. Like Sub-Zero's armor, I don't even know how he moves in that thing. So maybe they should have animated it. It would have looked super cool if
There's
it were animated.
actually really good anime Mortal Kombat movies.
No, I'm sure there is. Yeah.
The new Mortal Kombat video game trailer looks better than this movie.
Yeah,
What
Mortal
are they on now,
Kombat
like 10, 11?
11.
What are they on?
11.
11. So the recent Mortal Kombats, starting I think from like 9 or 10, have been some of the best like fighting games. So if people are into that, Mortal Kombat games are really good again.
Yeah, but the thing to keep in
people
mind
are-
is that they've gone like full. Like the game was already supposed to be funny and like hammy. It's gone full ham, right? They have like crossovers with like the Terminator. You can play as Arnie, right?
Yeah.
Like they have all these like crazy
But they
things
have,
that
like-
come in. It's because the movie was
Yeah.
the games in the movie was never supposed to be taken seriously, right? So anyone who's digging into like plot holes and shit in this movie,
Right.
get the fuck out of here, man. That's not the point of MK21.
Wait,
It's
in
just
the-
to be an enjoyable.
It's Mortal
video game
Kombat,
movie.
okay? It's not Nomadland.
And here's the thing, it did really well in the box office, right? It's actually
It
the
did.
movie that people are pointing at saying the box office is finally coming back because we're getting vaccinated. We're seeing these big blockbusters come out and like make decent money in the tens of mils. So it's actually a very positive sign for that whole Hollywood industry, really.
Hey,
right?
Planet Game Stream. Who wants to watch me play Civ 4 for like 6 hours?
People would, dude. People would.
I don't know about 6 hours, but I feel like you get really dark. I want to hear you narrate all your choices. Tell
That's
me
right.
which.
Do you do
I want to
genocides?
hear about all the groups that you're like, yeah, we're gonna genocide
A novel- right.
Gauls.
Well, in my latest game, I'm playing as Ethiopia. No, Ethiopia. I've wiped out the French, wiped out the Spanish, and I'm
Fuck 'em.
about to wipe out
There
the
you go.
Mayans. And I'll probably
right.
win via space race. I'm controlling
See,
my continent.
I would-
yeah.
Yeah, I would pay to listen to that. Yeah, just fuck them Italians. Yeah, just screw 'em. Like,
Was it like
just
true start
snuff out
location? What kind of map was it? Like
Continents.
continents?
So it's got the 2 big islands. So I'm about to take over my whole island easily.
Nice.
See, listen
Nice.
to that
That's
tone
right.
in his voice.
There was
This
there
little
was
baby
some-
Mussolini over here. Yeah.
Well, in a
Dang.
game series that's known for Gandhi just nuclear bombing everyone, the game pushes you just to
Yeah.
slaughter everyone else. It's a game.
The two things the Civilization games teach you in terms of politics is you gotta
Screw
have
everybody.
your defense spending has to be through the roof. You cannot not
Right.
have a defense.
No peace.
And
no
two,
peace, only war.
Slavery is great.
Yeah, that's what they said. That's what it
America.
teaches you. It's awful, but it's
Yeah.
like funny.
I played Chris and Risk last time we were up in the cabin. And,
Oh, right.
It was me, my girlfriend, and Chris was like,
Did I win? I forget.
yeah, and you were like
Yes.
making like under the table offers to my girlfriend, like, yeah, if
Oh yeah.
you let
I
me
think.
take over South America, you can be my defense minister.
Oh yeah.
But we have to gang up on team. I was like, fuck this shit. What are you-
I think Shan went for it too. She's like, yeah, sounds like a good deal.
Cushy cabinet position in the little dictator's office. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
familiar.
But yeah, so did you guys grow up playing like the Jackbox games, like those party video games?
You don't know Jack?
Yeah, that type of thing. Like it was.
I played the trivia games. Those are fun.
Yeah, it's like trivia games, but then they have all these other types of games. But yeah, so we could play those games because it's like it's not Civilization, it's multiplayer. But Among Us, that would be fun actually. We did like a stream of Among Us.
I tried playing Among Us once and I didn't like it. So
I got so bad at video games. I picked up God of War, and I of course cranked up the difficulty setting. And
Yeah, you're like, "Hey."
I'm regretting it because I'm stuck in this
a
one
God of
area
War.
for like an hour. Yeah. Like I actually have to like plan my moves and stuff. Like I'm so bad at video games.
I get to that point too. I'm only like 3 hours into God of War, and I've already got to a point, and I didn't crank up the difficulty either. It's like normal difficulty. This is how bad I am, and I can't get past this part. And it's like,
no, it's really hard.
It loads me into like the same fight over and over, and I'm like, God damn it.
So
I haven't played it
yeah.
in like 2 weeks. Yeah. That's what happens.
Should we talk about that Jason Wu tweet? Jason Wu, not the fashion designer, some rando on Twitter. The thing he said about the attacks on Asians and policing.
Yeah.
Do
we want to talk about that?
I will share that.
Oh yeah, we're taking a hard 180 on
Yeah.
Hard left turn.
Nothing
Like,
original about this tweet, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing you haven't seen before.
I mean, it was kind of the inspiration of that for the title of this episode, so we
This
probably
is in
should talk about
response to
it.
the second curb stomp, right?
Yeah.
That old man who got curb stomped in Harlem,
Yeah.
was it?
Well, yeah, and the guy who did it, or a suspect was caught today. So
Okay.
Wait, Alex Perez, which Jason Wu? This guy or the fashion designer?
I'm pretty sure it's not the fashion designer.
I thought he was caught up in some like
I'm sure
sex
the fashion
scandal.
designer's
He
is an
definitely
asshole
wouldn't have
too.
a handle at critical race.
no.
Yeah, he wouldn't be talking about critical race theory.
No, it wasn't. It was Alexander Wang that I think that was caught up in this.
Oh right.
Oh.
How fucking racist of me. Yeah.
All right, so Chris, what were your thoughts on this tweet?
Well, I'll let Filip take it away. I think he was. Didn't you retweet this guy and blast him?
Yeah, it wasn't him in particular, but someone else who responded to him, who blasted him first, and then I got really upset about it because, this is like, just the contrast between what the fuck he's, railing on here versus what actually happened that he's responding to, which is like a guy got fucking curb stomped, right, in a very, very vile video. And the second person...
And
the
is in a
second
coma
person-
still.
Yeah, who was literally curb stomped, right? And the response is the same shit. It's talking down to Asians, telling us what not to do, providing kind of platitudes, but not actually providing any sort of like actionable ideas around what can be done better. That just really upset me, so I tweeted about it, and there's some interest in that. So I don't know what to say about this. Like, this is nothing new. We've seen this before. We've seen this. It's been going on for months now. Not just the violence, but this response to the violence. And yeah, it's just like fucking tiring, right? Like, when are things going to get better?
This is classic straw manning, right? That this tweet is something that I think largely Asian American activists or whatever get away with doing whatever the fuck they want in terms of straw manning Asian Americans, because we believe that there is some contingent of extremely reactionary right-wing pro-cop, Asians or whatever, who can't handle seeing a video of an Asian American elder getting curb stomped by a black man, and then suddenly we're all anti-black racists because of that. And I need to see evidence of that. And I don't know who he's tweeting at. Who is he talking to here?
That was my first.
And I think that's what I mean by
like,
straw manning. It's like the reason this is to me a kind of bullshit thread is it's not responding to anything.
Yeah. Well, the thing I said in my first retweet of this was like, it's been one day. It's been literally less than 24 hours since the incident happened. This guy says this. Has anyone actually called for more police action? Like, I haven't even seen like big, trending.
No,
reports or whatever.
because what they mean is that anytime you get tweets where Daniel Day Kim or Ron Kim or whoever goes online and says, "Let's find this guy, let's bring this guy to justice," that is an example of being pro-cop, pro-cultural state.
That's what they're
No,
saying.
it's
And
not.
that's-
It could be saying let's go pro Batman vigilantism. Let's just go fucking find this guy ourselves. No one's calling for like literally bringing on more cops, right?
Well, and also like, when they talk about things like I don't know why we use this term carceral state. It seems rather sanitized to me.
It's one of these academic buzzwords.
Yeah, it's okay. So the I mean, it's correct, right? Like, we are by far the most heavily imprisoned society on earth. Like, far and away. It's not even close. I think the next closest is, several hundred per 100,000 away from us. We're like 760 per 100,000. Off the fucking charts, right? I agree. And there's a huge racial disparity in that. I think black Americans are something like 6 times more likely to be incarcerated than white. And a lot of that is nonviolent crimes, right? But that is a debate, I think, that is a thing that I think is it's very important in terms of policy. It's really important in terms of, thinking about crime and justice in a longer lens. But I think that what people like Jason Wu are doing is like, you shouldn't even fucking call the cops. If something like if your father was beaten half to death on the street, just take him to the hospital. Don't call the police. I mean, that's kind of what it is, because anybody who says, let's
catch the guy. Right?
Yeah, let's catch the guy. Let's bring this guy to justice. Suddenly, I'm pro carceral state, and a guy like Jason Wu, a lot of this is pushing off the straw man to make himself look smarter. To say, I know you want to call the cops. I know intuitively it makes sense to call the cops, but it's a lot more complicated than that. You see, because we abolitionists, what we believe is stuff, and it's like, okay, I get that you're trying to like peacock in front of like the Twitter audience,
and he's a legal services attorney, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
I get what the fuck you're doing. Okay, I get what the fuck, and it's just like, yeah, but right now, that's besides the fucking point.
Right.
Okay, I don't think anyone who has criticized or looked at, and I've a lot of people I know understand this. I think this is widely understood, and among Asians who tend to not call the cops, it's one of our problems.
Yeah.
Is even when there is crime perpetrated against us, we don't call cops. Right. That's been one of the big problems, and the notion that an Asian people who instinctively call police after violent crimes are perpetrated against us and want the criminal who did this to be brought to justice, that's being racist or anti-black or pro-carceral state, that's just pure straw man bullshit. I don't know what else to say about it other than fuck this shit. I mean, go write a fucking paper.
And he wrote a fucking article, and he shares at the top. Right, this is the problem that I have is with the tone, and like not the specific implication, but the tone of this is just like, I know better than you. You guys are gonna do the wrong thing by taking action. Like, read my fucking long read piece about this situation. Like that is not helpful at all to the community, right? It comes off as being very patronizing, I think, right, and just ineffective. And so to see this get attention was like really frustrating for me.
Yeah. Adam, can you put up CK3 Benchmark's latest comment? Teen, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, because that's not his point, right? I don't think he cares about, solving the problem or whatever. He cares about looking good. He wants to tweet the right thing. He wants the right people to see his tweets and say, oh, this guy gets it. He's an ally. He's a good one. But this isn't about, practical advice to people in terms of how to deal with, an outbreak of fucking severe violence. This guy's he's in a coma.
Yeah.
Because if he wasn't in a coma, his brain would swell against his fucking skull and he would die. So what the fuck does carceral state have to do with this?
Also, the CK3 benchmarks, he's talking to the conservative Asians, possibly. I know that's totally not the answer, because conservative Asians don't hang out on Twitter. There was that study that showed like 80% of Twitter users are heavily Democratic. I'm sure that counts for Asian Americans as well. So if he did want to reach out to conservative Asians, he would not be doing it on Twitter or this publicly even. He would go to his maybe local Asian interest groups, and he would be giving speeches to them or talking to them. But it's pure performative bullshit, preaching to the choir, probably a non-Asian choir.
Yeah,
and why it's so inappropriate, the
liberal
timing.
Asians.
Wait, say again, Jess?
He's talking to other liberal Asians and non-Asians. I think that might be the more important point here.
But
he's definitely not talking like someone whose dad or grandma is likely to face an attack like this.
But the form of talking
is
signaling, right? He's signaling his kind of credentials.
That's 100% what this
his
is.
Political leanings and so on. He's not talking to people in the sense of like talking about the only way we should be talking about this, which is like what is a functional response to the situation? Like, is this guy getting help? Are they looking into who did this? Is there going to be justice served at some point? Right? Those questions around a guy getting fucking curb stomped.
Yeah.
But
also,
and there were no solutions, right? So like if you look in the whole thread, maybe in replies to other people, he offered solutions, but in the 9 or 10 or 11 tweet thread, he didn't have solutions. It was just sort of more references, more articles about how, policing is not the solution. And I don't think any of us disagree with the notion that
No.
more policing is going to sort of solve violence in America. We know that's not true.
And
but
no one's even calling.
No one's
for
even
it.
said that, right?
And
No,
he's implying that they
yeah.
are. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's say in say like the Atlanta thing, like was it okay to call the cops on that guy? Was it okay because he's white? Because a lot of these people, they will, when something like a Kyle Rittenhouse thing happens, they kind of want to see the police rough them up. So is it just based on
do,
the
yeah.
identity of the perpetrator?
I think so. I think we can just say that.
So it's just a revenge fantasy. It's a revenge fantasy.
Oh, I mean, look, if the
well,
killer's
I mean-
white, the cops aren't doing enough, right?
Yeah.
Like in
Yeah.
Atlanta. Then it's like, oh, the cops aren't doing enough. They're not throwing the
Right.
book hard enough at this guy. They're not.
Or they should have
bringing
shot
enough
him on the
charges.
scene.
Yeah, they should have shot him on the scene. Whatever. But if the attacker's black, it's suddenly like, oh, you shouldn't even call the cops. And I'm like, look, we're not dumb. We're not fucking stupid. We understand the background of this. We understand the racial tension, the orientation of that tension, and why it is complicated, right? We get it. But, like, this is not answering the needs of Asian people who are who are the ones under attack.
Yeah, this is not a fucking thought experiment. These are real people getting killed, maimed, all that. And it's so just disgusting to see the upper class Asians who are probably the most protected talk as if this is all a thought experiment, whereas the lower class Asians are the ones actually getting hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think it's purely a class issue either. I mean, I think upper class Asians are just as vulnerable to this if they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just like, who are you? Who are we? Who are these people talking to? They're not talking to Asian people. They're not offering any real advice to Asian people. They're strutting. They're just strutting, and they want to show off that they don't have that instinct for self-preservation that might lead them astray into bad politics and being self-interested rather than constantly being the perfect coalitional sidekick, which is what is expected from Asian people.
Yeah, and
so
then that's why we call this episode
For
fake.
Jason Wu, it's more beneficial to be on their good side than to keep an Asian elder safe.
Yeah,
So
and that's why
calculation.
that's why they're fake radicals, because they're actually doing the safe thing, which is because it's what's really hard is to stick up for Asian American interests in the face of everyone else saying that's somehow bad. That's the actual
Correct.
really tough part. That's a radical
Exactly.
outsider thing to do. The easy thing to do is just do whatever your coalition allies tell you to do, which is what this guy's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, there's sort of a recursive harm in calls to action like this, and I'm like trying to look through like data sets now that we have at least like one full year of public scrutiny on anti-Asian crimes. It's really hard to actually do good year-over-year analysis because the data is so patchy.
Yeah.
Like we know that underreporting is a huge problem, but if you don't know how big of a problem, you quantify that, right? So it's just like a giant asterisk that kind of muddies the water. So if you do a call like this to don't call the police, you're actually scrubbing this from the record, the only record that we as a society have to even just get a sense of what the problem is. So I'm clearly not pro-police, but if a guy's getting clearly curb stomped, it's worth it at least to alert some authority
Right.
with reporting power, because then it gets logged.
Well, and there's no other recourse for
And also,
in
they
our
don't
society,
say
right?
this when the attacker is white.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one brought the carceral state problem up when in Atlanta.
Right. Or
Yeah.
Kyle
In
Rittenhouse.
Atlanta, again, the
right.
problem was the exact opposite. The cops weren't doing enough. So which one is it? We need a
Or
principle.
I mean,
here.
if you're just that so staunchly anti-police, fine, then you have to be pro Asian community self-defense, right? But we've seen a pretty much
that's
blanket
not allowed as well,
condemnation
right?
of that too. So what do you want? What do you
nothing.
want?
They
I
want
mean,
you to
even people like
do fucking nothing,
the
'cause you're-
call to
'cause-
like board up
Right.
your restaurant is considered, anti-black or racist or something. Like there has to be some actionable principle by which you are saying that this Asian life has fucking value.
The thing is,
Wear
Right.
wear helmets and shoulder pads 24/7. That's their
it's,
solution.
it's easy to tell
like, I
people
bring-
to do nothing if it doesn't actually affect you yourself, right? Until your
Yeah.
grandma gets stomped, you're not gonna give a fuck what happens to the people here in Chinatown.
Well,
Yeah,
I
so
would
when
even
was,
have
reading
some
that
respect
thread,
for.
what I wanted to know is what he would do. Like, assuming he has a mother and a father who's getting up in years, what would he do if one of them got caught in an attack like this?
Well,
I
yeah,
don't see any advice in that.
well, he certainly doesn't have it for himself, right? And I could have some respect if someone's going to be consistent, right? So let's say he sincerely believes this and don't call the police, don't contribute to the carceral state when it's not happening to him. I would have some respect for him if it happened to his family and he had the same response. At least it would be consistent.
I would
right?
not.
It would
I
be
don't
some.
have respect
No,
for
I
people
would-
who are
That's
consistent.
that's a Michael
I would
Dukakis
feel bad
moment.
for his family.
No, I would feel
I would
bad.
feel
I'm
bad
not
for his
saying that
family
I would
member.
agree with him. I'm just saying that we're talking about a consistency and a principle, quote
Okay.
unquote. That's a principle, right? Even though I don't agree with it, it's a principle. But I don't think he would do that, right? His response is
If you're
if it happened to his
staunchly-
family, if he's a staunch pacifist or something, I don't know. But I'm just saying that, like, at least it's consistent. But, you know, I don't think he would have that reaction, right? His reaction would be, I want the person caught.
I mean,
right?
to,
Oh,
I think
just to
it's
know
a
before
pretty
Tina,
naked declaration of values here.
Yeah.
It's basically saying all you out there are good enough collateral, so long as my place in the world is secured.
Yeah,
It's
precisely.
a pretty ugly statement.
I just want
I
to insert
agree,
for
but I'm just
people who are
saying-
curious. Eliza had to drop out because she had to put her kids to sleep. In case people are curious. Yeah.
She had to put her kids to bed.
Right, they're not. Yes, good
What?
distinction.
Why?
Good
What did I
distinction.
say?
They might not
Sounds
sleep. They
sinister.
probably will not go
Oh
to
yeah,
sleep.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you don't put 'em to sleep.
Insinuated she's upstairs with each of them in a headlock.
Yeah.
Oh,
Only dreams. Only
Oh,
dreams.
did you? Okay. Talking about that kind of thing. Did you guys have those? Do you guys remember that they sold this toy where you can make your bed into one of those like WWE wrestling rings?
That's dope.
what?
You guys remember that? Yeah.
No.
So they would sell this, and you would put it
No.
on the corners of your bed, and they had like the ropes.
Oh my
And
god!
then they
How
would-
many
you
kids'
could-
necks were broken because of that before they had to recall it?
I don't know, but it was a thing. It was a real
Wackiest
toy.
to got removed was race car beds. Other than that, I don't know about.
Yeah. No, I'm not lying. It was a toy.
I believe
Just
you.
like
The
we used to
90s were
sell
crazy
lawn
times.
I mean, we all used our beds to do wrestling moves. So
Yeah, and they were
it
like,
makes
and
sense.
someone knew that. They were like, all of the kids are doing this anyway. Let's sell a product.
So bringing this, we're getting close to the 2-hour mark, but I guess bringing this back a little bit to what we were discussing earlier, in between what Jason, this tendency, not Jason Wu per se, but like this tendency for us to, I don't know, Philip, is this your like frustration? This is mine. It's sort of like, why do we always have to like scold each other? You know, like we get attacked, or an Asian person gets attacked in a brutal, I mean, just horrifying way, and the first response is to scold other Asian Americans for something that we haven't even done, for supporting the
I think
conflict.
we're racist at each other. I
Yeah, like-
swear. I swear we're racist to each other.
People don't like it. Internalized racism. Like that is
Well,
it. Right?
okay. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we need. I'm trying to come to some understanding of what's going on because I've never been fully satisfied with self-hatred as the, you know, because self-hatred is one of those things that you could accuse a lot of people of, but you never really quite find it. You know, like it must be. It's like dark matter. It's like, okay, I mean, if your theory is that that's what's motivating everything, but how come I've never really seen it? I mean, seen it. I mean, even when I think I've seen it, and I get to know the person, I realize, oh, it's a lot more complicated than I hate myself. I hate my Asian skin or whatever, right? I frankly don't see that much. At least anecdotally. I mean, is how I feel. But I guess that what I'm saying is that tying it back to kind of what we were talking about in media rep, I still think that it has to do with like Asian people being very like top heavy. Like we're very super ego driven as a group. And we are very bound by rules and trying to identify, understand, and then conform to customs. And that makes us good rule followers. But what we're not good at, I think, is sort of like id. Like we're not good at impulse and sort of understanding and following, like, you know, sort of inner drives.
At least Asian Americans.
Asian, Asian Americans.
What if
yes.
it's
Not
the
Asian
reverse of
Asians.
that?
Not Asian Asians.
What if
Asian
it's
Americans.
seeing that you have the ability to do that, but everyone else does not? I see a lot of that,
Wait,
Yeah.
sorry. Say that one more time.
in my opinion.
I-
That you are the actualized person. All of the other Asians are not. They
Yeah.
are still unenlightened. They are the rule followers. They are the naked assimilationists, sellouts, self-hatred, internalized self-hate, motherfuckers, whatever. All the bad Asians that you are trained to dislike. That's everyone else, unlike yourself. So I still see this as an extension of I am the good Asian. I am the only one who's able to have this enlightened worldview, and I'm so convinced that most of you guys do not, that I need to get up on my little soapbox and lecture you guys to share my enlightened thoughts so you guys can come up to my level.
Yeah, and I think part of that is because there's no countervailing force to that in the form of understanding drive. Like, someone had, I think the commenter with the Chinese characters, the Canping, those are the only two characters that I recognized. But there was a comment much earlier about were we ever familiar with DVD ASA, which is interesting because that was the first time I actually ever even became interested in Asian American shit. I used to do this super commute between DC and New York every week, and I'd listen to DVD ASA.
Jeez.
And it wasn't, it was weekly, but it was pretty bad. And I had a lot of time to burn on that commute, and I would listen to this podcast, and I found it interesting. So it was David Cho, who's the Facebook
Artist
probably
guy.
billionaire by this point.
Yeah.
Graffiti artist who's fucked. He's totally fucked in the head. He's crazy. And Asa Akira, the porn star.
He's been on
And they
Joe
had-
Rogan a few times too. People.
Yeah, and he tells the craziest fucking stories. And it's a degenerate podcast. I mean, it's a cast of degenerates, and they're all just telling stories about, just crimes that they've committed, basically, and just horrible shit. It's the world of underground prostitution and porn
and Asa
and
Akira, who's
gambling,
the porn star,
and
right?
all vices.
Yeah.
And this is life in the shadows. And I challenge, Asian people in your life. We live in the shadows as well. Like, we're not all just rule followers. There's tons of people out there. You go to Vegas any weekend. It's fucking loaded with Asian people. Vegas is like half Asian.
And it's not just Asians from Asia, right? It's Asian Americans, okay?
Yes. The vices are very well represented by Asian people in America. And I don't think we're by the numbers people at all. I think the reality of us is that we are rule breakers,
We're
just
diverse.
as much as we pretend to be rule followers. And I really did like DVD ASA a ton because it was the first time I saw a truly fucking unhinged, set of Asian American people talking about life in the shadows in that kind of way. And although, don't you think Steve Lee and Pooner are guys you'd find on Asian Masculinity? Yeah, totally. Yes. I kind of forget who. I kind of remember who Pooner is. I know Steve Lee, and yeah, Steve Lee is totally that kind of guy. And Steve Lee is Bobby Lee's brother. You know Bobby Lee.
Wait, Steve Lee, the guy who ran for Ron Kim's seat?
No.
In-
It's
No.
Oh,
It's
okay,
Steve
never
Lee.
mind.
And so, what I'm saying is that what I'm trying to say, that the Minari is the other end. Minari is like the sort of scoldy, top-heavy, super ego-driven, all about your ancestors, the Minari growing in the creek bed, your grandmother.
I don't think I see that. I'm gonna push back on that one, but that's neither here nor there. We can talk about Minari some other time.
I think the
Yeah.
scolders
I
like
get your
Minari. I
Russian
don't know if
point.
Minari does actually the scolding, but
Yeah,
the
No, I
scolders
think-
like
I
it.
think-
a lot of
we can
people
talk
read
about that, but
too
I think
much
that
into it that isn't
ultimately-
that's not there.
I think ultimately those movies, these sort of like good immigrant type movies, appeal to a sort of super ego-driven identity. And whereas I think there's another, I mean, clearly Asian American people are driven by other things, but those are all completely hidden. And so that's why I think, like, in a way, we keep getting, when it comes to politics, like, we keep woke scolding each other. And when we do see people who are driven by sort of inner drive, passion for, community self-defense, for self-interest, we are scared of it. We're like frightened of the fact that there are Asian people organizing themselves to protect themselves. We're frightened of that. We think that somehow means it's going to lead to the Asian Trump. There was a really good article in the New York Times recently about sort of Asian American politics and the sort of political awakening of Asian Americans during COVID. And it ended with a great quote. And it was a guy saying, look, so much of this shit has just gone unaddressed. And he was like, I fear the day that there is going to be an Asian Trump. Because
Was that JCK? That was JCK, right?
No, it wasn't JCK, but it was...
he said something similar.
He said similar things, yeah.
He said something similar, yes. And it was this fear that the failure for us to explore those more id-driven, instincts of ours as human beings sets the stage for a usurper like a Trump to come. And the more we suppress it, the worse it gets. So
what's irritating about Asian Americans is the rule followers act like they're the rule breakers, and they portray the actual rule breakers as the rule followers. Like Jason Wu is a very loyal rule follower. He is following the exact same rules that are forced upon him by the whole coalition thing, and the rule breakers are the Asians who are risking real public wrath by saying we need to defend ourselves, or the people who attack us, regardless of race, should be punished by the law. Those are the actual rule breakers, objectively speaking. But they try to flip it around, and they portray, you call them the good Asians, but what do they always call themselves? The bad Asians, right? Because they dropped out of med school and they're now designing footwear or some shit like that, or they're stand-up comedian, and all that bullshit.
The trouble I have with them is that, like a Jason Wu or whoever, they're the ones that have they're on the soapbox, right? They're the ones that have the audience, or the ones that
because they follow the rules.
Speak out for everybody else. That's the issue, right? It's not that the DVD ASA Asians don't exist. They definitely exist, but they're pushed to the recesses. I think the most mainstream manifestation of them are these don't give a fuck Asians that are on, like, Asians with Attitude on Instagram, the ones who are like organizing for community support and defense patrols, right? The guys who are a bit more black adjacent, like I said earlier, the ones who are actually trying to do something. They're the ones that are never going to get a movie made of them, or never going to get their movie made, because they're not representing what these spokespeople want to put out there as what Asian Americans should be seen by everybody else, right? They want everyone else to see us as these folks who follow the rules, rather than break the rules.
I mean, this is a good question, right? Like,
well, we
is
were
any rule breakers or rule followers. Like
Philip, you shared that website where we were among the banned, or like warning. Remember the warning site? There was Next Shark, NBC Asian America, us. Who else was on that list?
Some Facebook groups and things.
There was, for Next Chart, they called out Benny Luo as the bad guy, and they said there's a woman who wrote for them who's actually pretty good. So they're specifically picking and choosing. This is on one of these like Stop Asian Hate like mega lists online.
I like what they said about this. They said we were condescending and we tried to stir up hate by being, well, I forget what the other word they said.
Like
antagonistic,
purposefully antagonistic or something like that. But yeah,
okay,
I mean,
so they nailed my shtick.
right?
I am condescending.
Yeah.
You all need to get up to my level. Come on.
Fair enough.
But I mean, are we rule breakers or rule followers? I mean,
No, so I
depends on
think
the rule,
to
doesn't
Teen's
it?
point here, yeah, it depends on the rule. And I
Yeah.
think the refinement that I would add, and I think, Teen, this encompasses what you're saying, actually. There is, like there's no single person that is either or.
right? I was going to say
Like,
that.
I am
yeah.
pretty convinced that the people that are the most, like, by-the-book rule followers, that's a complete fucking lie. When you dig into their personal life, their family history, all of that.
They're the doctors the dentists that run the prostitution rings in
Yeah,
Seattle,
exactly.
whatever
Or
it
the
was, right?
or like the
Yeah.
doctors who are running the pill farms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those, like, you contain multitudes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen it I think, like, if, like, on LinkedIn, if I bothered to polish that up, I would look like a very big rule follower. I would, and then the reality of my life would be something completely different. Not that I'm lying on LinkedIn, it's just that there's so much more to a person.
Right.
And I think this
Right.
whole categorization of like good Asian, bad Asian, rule breaker, rule follower, I think that actually is a bit of an internalization of the rules that were imposed upon us, that we are kind of reproducing upon other people who kind of look like us. There's an expectation that if you see an Asian, that they will be X, Y, or Z. And there's kind of I think there's a little bit of a cognition gap if you don't neatly fall into one of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you kind of fall into the uncanny valley.
Well, I
so
think
to
it's
speak, for an Asian.
yeah. I mean, I think it's also just bad for yourself personally if you try to fit yourself into one box completely, and sort of
I'm gonna
think that
disagree
you
there.
have to be one thing or not another.
I think that's a complete lie, actually.
What do you mean?
I think the art is you have to be able to do all of it.
Well, that's
to
what
be
I
healthy.
mean. Is that it's not good to try to fit into one box completely.
No, I'm saying there's an act to all of it, and it's to your benefit to try to master at least some of these components of yourself completely.
Yeah, I don't think we're disagreeing.
Go out there, get your education.
Yeah,
right?
we have you
Be
can
the
do all those
rule
things.
follower to secure all of those things. It's just that if you do that, that's not to the exclusion of like.
That's my point. Is that we're
of, like,
not
being
100% one or the other, right? Like we have
Yeah.
parts of all of those things that we can do.
And I
we
think
fit into
I
all
think-
those boxes.
I think what I've noticed is Asian Americans as individuals are fine. We are complicated. We're multitudes. Asian American people are not defined by any one particular thing. I'm not saying that Asian American people are like this. I'm saying as a group, to the extent that we are talking about the creation of Asian American literature or art, or to the extent that we're trying to do some sort of cultural projects around trying to understand Asian Americans, that project is too top heavy. And it's not that. I think the problem is this idea that we need to nurture Asian Americans to have more drive, to be more interesting, to be more of a rule breaker or whatever. I don't think that's the issue. It's like that David Dow guy. Remember the guy that got, we talked about him, the guy that got beat up on
United
that-
Airlines guy. Yeah.
the airlines guy, and then you looked
Yeah.
in, people looked into his past, and he's like a shady motherfucker. He was like a gambler. He was like a professional
Right.
gambler. All this shit. Like, that's what your average person is going to be. I think you
Yeah.
dig into their real life, and they're far more complicated and interesting. But when it comes to how we talk about it, and all of a sudden it becomes this very scoldy, like sort of I don't know. It's very like how you would talk to a child. You know what I mean? Like how you would just sort of like talk down to a child in order to raise them up, and
Yeah,
that's
patronizing.
why I think of all the groups in America, racial groups, it is Asian Americans who produce the art and literature that is of least interest and relevance to ourselves.
But
I
the
think
white
most-
critics love.
That critics
Increasingly
love.
so. But increasingly
Yeah.
so they love, yeah.
They love it. Yeah, I think a lot of Asian American literature, for example, white people love that shit. Asian people, by and large, are like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Yeah, they don't even know. They can't even hate it because they don't even know it.
Yeah, they don't even know what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my relationship to Joy Luck Club. The number of white women who were like, "Yeah, I loved Joy Luck Club." I'm like, "Oh, it was okay, cool. Glad you liked it. What the hell?"
Better that you did than
like-
hating it.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I think it is.
I read. I
it's
like
a real
it.
lack,
I think
isn't
we're.
it?
It is. Yeah. I mean, that's not to say okay. We're gonna have to talk about Amy Tan more in depth, but
Well, there's a PBS documentary coming out on her, so Jess, you and I, and whoever else, we can do a pod about her soon.
Yeah,
We could
but
do
it's
a watch
definitely
along,
like
too,
a
if it's on
thing
PBS,
out
right?
there. Yeah, but it's like I think the point that I'm getting at is like this like Joy Luck Club, which is probably like the piece of Asian American representation in America, blah blah blah. In the '90s, like this has become a touchstone, but like by proxy, I don't really relate to that at all. But we're all supposed to relate to each other through these landmarks, these touchstone cultural landmarks that are mediated for us through a pretty white, heavy, class biased lens. That's no way to understand each other as people.
I
And then
thought in
the
that
and
sense,
our crowdsourced version is to just yell at each other on Twitter. I don't think Asians as a whole have a sense of each other as people.
Yeah, I thought in that
Yeah.
sense, Crazy Rich Asians was actually a step in the right direction, even though, there's plenty of valid critiques of that movie or whatever. That was, to me, a movie that was actually aimed, at least, to an Asian American audience. which is
Crazy Rich
something new.
Asians, if you think about it, is very subversive. What does it does?
Yes.
It opens up with a quote where it says like, the East is going to take over. It's like a sleeping
It's a
dragon.
Napoleon quote.
Yeah, it opens up with
So
that.
Napoleon.
So for a mainstream rom com to basically say that, I've always thought was quite subversive.
Yeah, and it
Kevin Kwan
glorifies
is actually
just
an
wealth.
interesting author. He's an interesting person. If
Kevin
you
Kwan?
read if you read those books, and I read all three.
Oh,
One time
wow.
was long. If you read those books, it gets there's this nugget of perspective into his politics that's a little interesting. It's very aggressive and it's very self-aware. This is very much a middle finger to American class pretension.
It's a flex.
It is.
I think there's
very
a
much
flex
so.
to what he's saying, and he's saying that there is, the depth of what, like, okay, you think you know snobby, you think you know elite, you got nothing compared
Right.
to what you could see even in a place like Singapore, and I think there's the flex to Crazy Rich Asians that is irresponsible and maybe a little bit dangerous, but is also satisfying some very deep drive that.
True.
I can't really. I'm almost like you kind of do need it in a weird way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just constantly be like served images of humble pie. And,
We can't just have Minari, right? You
like,
gotta
I
have
grew
other
vegetables and then the vegetables
Right.
burned and I wanted to kill my grandmother because she burned them, but I love my grandmother. Like, you can't just have that.
Right.
You need images of like, I'm rich as fuck. Like we could buy, if you're racist to me, I could buy your whole fucking hotel and just fire you on the spot. Like,
Yeah, I liked
That is
I
drive,
still
you know?
like Crazy Rich Asians. I
should-
still
I
stand
do
by
too.
that.
Yeah.
We should get Kevin Kreider on this live stream. We got our
should vote for
connections.
him now.
We got
Yeah,
our
I
connections.
Yeah. So I think Crazy Rich Asians was
We
a
got
step in that
connections,
right
but I
direction.
think
Hey,
we
Kevin,
can't offer the fat salary.
we don't have the Peloton
We're too
money,
poor.
so sorry.
Yeah.
He's worth
Yeah.
19 million now. He owes me a few drinks first. But
Yeah, he needs to take us out to the Nomad Bar.
yeah.
All right.
But no, I mean,
How do people actually talk to each other? I mean, Jason Wu, no Asian people get in a room together and that's how we actually talk to each
No.
other. Like,
I
okay,
fear there
okay.
might be some weird circle
Oh,
where they
for fuck's
actually
sake!
do
I
that.
have
I
been
we
in
even know,
those
like
circles.
we know, like from
Dude.
some friends, like even the professional writers, the blue checks, they fucking argue amongst themselves all the time, right? In these private slacks, and they're
They sure
you know,
do.
It's a lot more. But what I'm saying is like nobody gets on the fucking horn and is just like, okay, I know we're all mad, but everyone's got to calm down because we've got to worry about the carceral state or whatever. Like, that's not how we talk. That's not how we think. But I would say that the way we talk and think is actually a lot more nuanced and interesting than the straw man
Right.
that people like Jason Wu are creating. And that is the
See, that's
part
the
that art
thing.
has
I agree
failed.
with that.
He accepts that there's complexity and nuance for him and his circle, probably. Not for us, though. We're all just blind
Yeah, you're just
automata
simpletons who are
responsive
gonna
to
dial
either.
911.
Classic disdain, right, for people you
Yeah,
think
it's
are below you.
disdain. We're either blind puppets for Trump, or we're good little peons, but a little uneducated.
I don't agree
we
with
just
this
don't- we're just
comment,
not
by
quite
the way.
hip to the
I think
times.
it's an interesting comment. I don't agree with it. I think that they're even with them, there is a sort of like gaming of the system that they will talk about amongst themselves in private. Like, how do we as Asians how do we game this so that people listen to us? Or like, how is this an opportunity for us right now to grab hold of the spotlight as Asian American activists or whatever? Like, oh, suddenly Asians are in the spotlight. How are we going to do this? And I think that they do have private, modes of conversation that they would not expose to the public. And isn't that Kevin Kwan? Kevin Kwan is that guy. He's like, that's art, right? Is the person that has it's like Dream of the Right Chamber. It's like it's a person with access that understands the true dynamic of what's going on, listens to it, and records it, and then sort of like presents it and said, "This is actually how people talk. This is a look inside the. And I think Crazy Rich Asians, and I think that the reason it's so readable is I think it's believable. The way that they talk to each other is highly believable, as the way very wealthy elite Asian people would actually talk, and the sort of way they talk down about white people is very real.
Yeah, he has access to that, right?
He's in
He
that
has
circle.
access to that.
It flows. Yeah, it flows very seamlessly from that. It's not an act that he's putting on. And he's absolutely correct that this is possibly the one power signal that, corrupt, venal, ignorant Americans will recognize and will respect. He's probably right.
Yeah.
He's probably right. All this hand waving, oh, we need to like center the right kinds of Asians. Like ultimately, what is that for? Right? I don't think ultimately it's to present a sort of collective image of us as Asians to an America that we believe is basically white America.
To the
Right.
actual powers that be, right? Because we don't actually have any power.
Yeah,
But
and so
white
like, but
Americans and
you notice like the tone that they take. Like we need to center like the poor Asians, the working class. We need to humanize them. For what? For whom?
Right.
You're kind
for what
of
purpose?
implying that if we just have the correct representation of these downtrodden Asians, that suddenly
Yes.
we are bestowed humanity.
Like racism
We'll
will
be
go
allowed
away
to
if they
bloom.
suddenly recognize we're human or something.
I think that there is always a power struggle where it's like arm wrestling. Like one person is trying to hold frame as the subject, and that person has narrative power over who becomes the object. So when we talk about we got to do representation, you talk about who's going to be the object. It's always going to be, poor Asian. It's going to be the poor immigrant family. But who's the subject? Who's writing it? Someone with a Harvard degree, someone that's well connected in the publishing industry, someone that is on the inside. And I think that's a power dynamic to say, I get to write about you. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I think that
Absolutely.
there was a subversion with Crazy Rich Asians is to like, no, I am telling you what the rich people upstairs really talk about. Are you interested in that? And I think people are very interested in that. And I think that's in that sense, I think that's why it's so compelling is we don't actually want to know what we already know, right?
Yeah.
We don't need
Yeah.
to see
Why?
a movie that tells
Right.
us what we live
We live
we're
in that.
regular
Why
ass
would-
fucking Asian people.
Right.
We already know how we talk.
Right. And people
I mean,
don't
maybe
really,
to an
yeah.
extent where we want to see us ourselves take control of that narrative, but I don't know if that's likely. But I think the more interesting thing I think with DVD ASA was once David Cho became super rich, that he had access to a celebrity class of people that most ordinary Asian identity kind of guys would never have. And he had experiences that most ordinary Asian identity people couldn't have. He was an Asian identity kind of Asian guy, but then suddenly he had this sort of like magical wish granted that he could have access to celebrities, that he could have access to, all these doors open, and then he would just fucking rant about what it was really like. And he was talking about like, oh yeah, when you're rich, like you have doors open for you that they would never open for someone else because rich people only trust other rich people. And he would tell you about that world, and that was really compelling. And I just don't think things like Minari or The Farewell, as wonderfully nuanced and humanizing as they are, they don't offer that nugget of truth, that nugget of like surveillance or what's the word when you really like voyeurism. That I think that like a Crazy Rich Asians can offer.
Okay.
We're at 2 hours
See, okay.
13, so I think we should probably
When
wrap it
we're
up soon.
talking about like I think people have it backwards when they talk about representation. Like we need good representation to humanize us, and that's the justification for like representation that's really more propaganda, right? Good representation, right? because the project is to ultimately be seen as human, to humanize. The project is to humanize us. I think that's actually completely reversed, and I think this is where something like Crazy Rich Asians comes in. I think you have to be seen as human in order to have that kind of representation work for you. Otherwise, you are perpetually an object, and this is why we keep wringing our hands over it. Like, this is bad. Like, we're not happy with this. This is bad representation. We don't like it. Blah blah blah. It's because we're doing it in reverse. Crazy Rich Asians kind of saying like, no, we were already human. We're human in the only way that you ignorant motherfuckers will understand. We're rich. We have power of our own. Hard power, might I add. I think this goes to something we were talking about, the lag between soft and hard power.
Yeah.
Crazy Rich Asians is flexing hard power here, softly.
Yes, that's right.
In other words. And ultimately this is the warning shot. You will see us as human because this is what's behind us. This is what's backing us. And that's how you get. This is why we're saying like, oh, we would never react this way if a white person made this kind of movie, but blah blah blah. Yeah, because they're already seen it. That project of humanization has already been completed for them. When we talk about the Irish or the Italians, that's already been done for them.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff like, oh, I'm seen as human because I can show you my vulnerabilities and how I suffer and how my suffering is like your suffering and all this stuff. And I think like there's an alternative way to view it. It's like, no, I'm human because I don't have these constraints anymore. I can just act on what I want to do. I'm not penned in. I'm not a prisoner because I have.
Yeah, I am also human because I don't have to take your shit.
Exactly. Yeah. And so my
Yeah.
humanity can be expressed because I actually have power as the subject in this work, not the object, not this beautifully shot film that, puts the Korean American immigrant on stage and lets everyone examine their life from the inside or whatever. But who's holding the camera, and who is telling the story? So anyway, that's probably more than enough on that topic, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think that next generation of film is coming, though.
I think so, too.
I think this.
Oh, yeah.
It does follow a certain progression. I think earlier we were talking about like Scorsese and Irish and Italian representation in the late 70s. That followed 20 years of this kind of softer propaganda representation for Italians,
people can get
where
bored
they
of-
were debating the.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the good immigrant, or the perpetual villain in Hitchcock movies, or some shit like that, right?
Yeah.
So there was that gradual laying of a foundation for like a representation corpus, a canon, that ultimately culminated in something like Scorsese, just kind of like breaking it all back down.
The fact that
You know what it's like?
And
the fact
zeroing
that
it
you can
out.
make an Asian American bingo or movie bingo means that like it's a trope now, right? These things are like understood. It's gonna get boring for us and
Yeah.
for other viewers, and eventually it's gonna go away.
You know what's a great illustration of this was that Seinfeld where Jerry takes a date to go see Schindler's List. And,
Yeah.
and they did this a lot in
remember this
Seinfeld,
one.
but like he started trying to make out with the girl during Schindler's List, and he got really pissed off. I was like, how could you?
Was she Jewish
Schindler-
too? Was she Jewish or
something
something?
like that. But
He was
point
always
being,
going
like, it's a
about
great
that.
film. It's an important film. It's a historical film, but he wasn't really feeling it. He kind of wanted to he kind of wanted to hook up
he
with
was
the girl.
like,
And I think that the thing that Asian American works don't provide that some do. Crazy Rich Asians did it. Better Luck Tomorrow did it. Harold and Kumar did it. I don't know if that's technically Asian American or not, but the stars were. Is a sense of like prurient interest. Like, I just really want to see this. Versus, I feel I should see this. And this is a very celebrated film among the Asian American community.
Obligation.
This
You don't
is
want to feel obliged to see it, okay?
Yeah.
the way
You wanna be
Jerry was
like-
obliged to see Schindler's List.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Anyway.
and good representation doesn't mean the people in it are good. Because I don't think like the people in Crazy Rich Asians like are good people.
Or Better
right?
Luck Tomorrow, or whatever.
Or Better Luck Tomorrow. They're not good.
Oh yeah,
Right.
and
you
Yoshi
kinda need that.
Obayashi and David Cho definitely are, and David Cho's a complete degenerate liar or whatever, and he does exaggerate and lie, but his stories are, he knows that's the point is,
Yeah.
and I'm sure Kevin Kwan lies, but nevertheless, I think there is a truth to how they present themselves, where the process, the thinking
Right.
of these people comes through.
The exact
degenerate
details.
thinking of these people,
Right.
And how
Sorry.
there are people, honestly, it's interesting because it makes you realize that you live a very buttoned up, controlled life where you're not allowed to act on a lot of your human impulses. Well, there's another class of people who get to act on every single whim, right? And that's the true class distinction. And I just don't think we have enough of that. I still think we celebrate these like constraints, like we celebrate how much weight there is in our life, and how much we suffer to follow these constraints, and that makes us human somehow. I don't think it does.
Jess, you were gonna say?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. I thought, but yeah.
Just
I mean,
building on that, I think we've laid down a good canon for the Asian American immigrant origin story. So my bet is that we're gonna see exciting stuff soon. That's just my guess.
Get the crap out of the way, right? Just get that shit done.
And
From what I understand, David Cho
Hollywood
has a
is paying
TV deal.
attention-
It's coming out
Does he?
on
Yeah.
some network. Yeah, it's a TV show. I'm sure people are gonna try to cancel him and stuff, but yeah, well that will be the roadblock
I
to
mean,
get. But
he has real FU money, right? So
Yeah.
what does it matter to him?
all right, so
More
should we
money, you can't
should we
have
wrap
enough.
this up now?
Yeah, I think.
All right.
Yeah, we talked enough, right?
Thanks for everyone joining us. Please subscribe. Yeah, do that and upvote or not
God, it's
upvote.
called the Cho Show.
the
Why
show
wouldn't
show.
it
What
be?
the fuck? So, huh? I don't. The fuck. Pick some better name. The Cho Show.
It's a great name.
I don't know.
Come
It kind of
on.
rolls off the
Simple.
tongue. The Cho Show.
Yeah.
Pay someone to come up with a better name. Suck my Cho. I don't know. See, I came up with a better one.
Yeah. Well.
Yes.
I like that.
CS, thank you. Adam,
Yes.
can you highlight that?
I
Like,
got
comment,
it. I got
subscribe.
it.
We got a couple of comments on our last one by people who thought we were being critical of Andrew Yang.
Or
I thought we were.
anti-Yang.
I thought we were being pretty nice to him. But maybe they just saw the title and thought we were being critical. But
All right. Just because I don't like how people talk about Yang doesn't mean I'm like a Yang fan.
I thought that was the
Or
most pro Yang
anti-Yang,
we've ever
whatever
been.
it is.
Yeah.
yeah, so I think they just
Yang's
looked at the
fine.
title.
Whatever. Like
Fuck 'em.
Are you guys voting for him?
I mean,
I-
I am. I got
I
my,
can't.
I got my voter.
I can't.
ballot.
I'm not in New Jersey.
Yeah,
I'm in New
I am.
Jersey.
I think I'm gonna
Oh,
vote
yeah.
for him.
I'm also not American, so yeah.
Did you be American?
That's
Yeah. I mean, I probably would if I were in New York. Why not?
Well, if it was between him and Eric Adams, definitely would vote for Andrew Yang. Yeah, those are the two front runners right now. Okay, so thank you for joining us. Remember, we'll be here every Tuesday, 8 p.m. unless Eastern Standard Time, unless we say otherwise. And yeah, we loved having you here. We loved the interactive
right.
dialogue. It's a real fresh thing. Very unlike podcasts.
And yeah, it was good having Liza as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. See
We
ya.
didn't get
Okay.
any questions this time. Send some questions, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
we'll-
we're just
we'll
kinda,
answer-
talking about Mortal Kombat for an hour.
We'll answer almost everything. I will reserve the right to maybe
Oh, we did.
not
get a
field some
question.
questions, but
Well,
What do you think?
we'll talk about
What do you
these
think?
guys later.
I like Asian, not Asian. I like them.
They're okay.
Not
They're
all the
annoying.
time, but I like them.
I haven't listened to them in a long time.
Yeah. I'm pro what they do. That doesn't mean I like what they do. How about that?
Okay,
try.
I like what they do, and I like them. Just
No,
not.
I
all
don't
the
like them
episodes that they do.
particularly. I don't think I'd like them. They're
Okay.
annoying.
Okay.
All
Mixed
right.
results.
I mean, they did
like
have
it.
they did have a recent episode that I did like. They did take some risks with that one. They actually brought a black activist.
Oh, cool.
Works in New York, and he brought up a good point, like especially around that really awful incident where the Filipina grandma was beaten up outside the
Yeah.
hotels. The big video that went around
The
was
one where
the
there were-
security cam footage from
Right, and
inside.
the security guard
and
closed the
there were-
door. Right.
The first curb stop.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
the first curb
so he actually brought up a fairly reasonable point. Okay, so like condemnation was on those guys, and I think rightfully so. That guy agreed too. But then his question was then, okay, as a black person, as a black man who potentially comes across a situation like this, how would I be? I want to intervene. I also don't want to get shot by the NYPD, which
Yeah.
they are known to do. So let's talk through. Let's actually talk through some of this shit. And I thought this was interesting because it's the first time that it's one of the only times that I've seen like a big platform actually get into the nitty gritty of what a scenario like that plays out as, instead of just high-minded platitudes about
Right.
like Carceral state or some word salad shit. This is a real concern. I think everyone should be able to recognize that if you are black and you're trying to intervene, it's very easy to see how the police would think you're the bad guy.
Absolutely.
And fuck you up. So it's not really reason. So we have to have some amount of understanding in what is reasonable to expect in situations like that, to try to keep our grandma safe.
Very
so,
off-brand for the AMA podcast, I gotta say.
yeah,
To-
so
to
they
go that
were a
deep.
little out of their element, I'd say, but I really appreciate that they're trying. And this is kind of our point here, right? Like, we can't rely on people with the fancy degrees to do this shit. This is a community thing. Everyone we all owe it to each other to put our collective heads together to think this shit through. So, thumbs up for at least that episode.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't dislike what they do all the time. I just
You just
All
don't
right.
like
Yeah.
them.
I
That's
just
fair
don't
too.
like them too.
We
I mean,
can't all
th-
like each
okay,
other.
it's not that
Okay.
I don't like them. Like I haven't met them, but from what I know of them from their podcast, they seem like those. They're like comedian. We're bad Asians. We're not really Asian. You know, we're whatever. We're the.
I think Mike Nguyen,
Asian people. I don't know.
worked in my
It
office
annoys me.
building. I swear to God, I ran into him like several times.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. If I ever talk to Mike Nguyen, who I think is one of the Asian not Asian guys, I want to know if he works in that office building.
We'll
Maybe
do a whole.
they've changed.
We'll
Maybe
do
they've
a.
gotten better. They just annoy me. I don't know. They're like. The
We'll
kinda
do a
Asians
whole
that annoy
episode
me.
where we just rate every single Asian podcast out there. We'll give them a rating out of 10.
The
And I'm sure
graveyard
they
of
find me
podcasts.
annoying too. So it's not like I care if they. Like
All right, guys, I gotta go. So, should we wrap this up?
Yes. All right.
All
Love
right.
you guys too.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone. Catch us next week.
Yep. Bye.